Morning, Roxanne. Morning, Anna. Rukman, morning. Blessed day to you as well. Denise Bramble, morning. Arlene Lewis, morning to you. J Dimple 66, morning. Ruben Rogers, morning. Proud to be Trini. Morning to you, Jacqueline Phillips, morning. Ruth Fronting, Frontin, morning. Laverne Brown, morning to you, Ashlyn Robertson, morning. Alison Boyce, morning, Alison. Phyllis Farrell, morning. Desmond Samuel, morning to you. Morning, love. Morning. Natalie F. Morning to you as well. Angela Kati, morning. Morning, Andrea. You're too kind. Morning, Diane. Anthony Perry, morning. Marian Charles, sorry, morning. Michael, morning. Carol Boyce, morning to you. Sally McNeil, Connor, morning. Right, so let me see. Right, so so morning again to all of you guys. Right, so morning, Brenda. No, I was not on Sunday, Brenda. I had mentioned on Thursday I wouldn't be on Sunday, sorry, because um, I work with NCC for Carnival, and so on Sunday, Tuco had their training session, their adjudication session for their judges, and so I had to attend that, and that was from 9 a.m. We went all the way till just after 5. So it was a whole day intense session training for the judges. So you can rest assured I think I'm supposed to start judging this week for the 10th. I think they said is the 13th. I think, yeah. Judging supposed to start in the 9/10. So, you can have some confidence in the decision making of the judges, because as I said, it was a very intense training session that was had on Sunday. So that's why I saw some people calling me and messaging to find out if I was on Sunday, but I did say on Thursday wouldn't have been on because of that. And then there was a murder just outside, because the training session was held at the VIP lounge in the Queen's Park Savannah, and there was a shooting just outside the Savannah, just outside the gates there, and I think the individual died. So that was the next piece of drama on Sunday as well. Yeah. Say morning to Mother Tuna Puna. Good morning to Mr. Chance and family. I trust that you all are coping well in the aftermath of the passing of your of your son. Yeah. Rena Jennings, morning. Debbie Markey, Tona Walcott, Hazel Martin, morning. Right, so it is, what's the date today, right? The 9th of January. So today is Mr. Panday's funeral. The Silver Fox will finally be laid to rest, and hopefully all of the controversy that has erupted since his passing, even in death, the Silver Fox is able to generate, I don't want to say controversy so much, for want of a better word, but it seems to be that the argument, the discussion taking place in the public space as to two things: how he should be honored, what we should name after him, and two, his legacy. And there are those who are seeking to whitewash the legacy that is Basil Panday. They want to get rid of all the negative things. So, as we say, they were good and bad that could be associated with the man, but some people choose to talk only about the good and pretend as if the bad didn't happen. There are those who advise that we should, out of respect for the family and take into consideration that, the family is going through a period of mourning, that we should, just focus on the good things. And as Ralph Murad said yesterday, he's commiserating with the family. He's not, in time will come when he will speak, because he has a lot to say about Mr. Panday. And so, you see, and even Darren was saying, Darren was of the view that now is not the time to speak ill of the dead, as they say. And it's not necessarily speaking ill. It's just putting the facts on the table. The necessity to put those facts on the table has come about because of the fact that you have people who would have you believe that, one, Mr. Panday was the best prime minister this country has ever had. I've heard many a person say that. Some people, I'll play a little live for you all just now, on someone who felt the need to come on social media and promote that janjat. Yeah, but Mr. Panday was the best thing, the best prime minister. How do we define best prime minister? Based on what? Based on what? Sometimes I listen to these folks and you would get the impression that a government is only supposed to govern for the poor, right? Only for the poor. So there's nobody else in the country. So everything the government does, every dollar that the government earns must be devoted to the poor and improving the lives of the poor. Nothing. So they mustn't do anything else for the middle class. They mustn't do anything to promote the wealthy. Never mind the fact that the wealthy, the so-called 1% that they love to malign, are some of the largest employers in this country, right? Some of the largest employers. Massey, how many people Massey Holdings employs? And Samakal, across the spectrum, and it's not to say that everybody in Ansamakal working for minimum wage, if any of them working for minimum wage at all. There are people, some of the highest income earners in this country, work for the Ansamakal group, and their last name is not Sabka. But like some people forget that, right? There are people who live in the best life possible by being employed with some of these very same big companies that they always like to talk. Oh, the government only giving them assets, all the US, and the government only giving them this, and the government don't care about the small man, and they only focusing on the wealthy and the wealthy. And that statement that Dr. Rowley made, there is nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, but the poor must come out of poverty. And see that part, the poor must come out of poverty. They don't ever talk about that part. It's always Rowley say the rich must get richer, right? And the rich must get richer. So what's wrong with the rich getting richer? All of these people who complaining, they feel if they get rich that they're just gonna stop and say, all right, the rich are done. Really? All of them who have businesses, why it is all you shut down all your business? You have enough money? Every day that you open your business, the intention is to get richer and richer. But you have a problem because you're not there. And somebody else doing it. We always hear these stories about how the Syrian Lebanese community used to be riding their bike and selling clothes and all kind of thing and whatnot and to get where they are today. And there are those who will throw in the anecdote that, drugs was involved. I don't know. Maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we know that they have a lot of legitimate businesses that hire ordinary citizens in Trinidad and Tobago who would have taken the time to go and avail themselves of the free P&M education, got their degrees and what have you. Those who would have worked their way up in the companies and are today enjoying the best of that life has to offer because of that. But if it is Mr. Sabga, Norman Sabga, to wake up in the morning and say, oh, we're shutting down this business and we leave in Trinidad to you. You know how many people would be out of work? You know how many families would suffer? You know how the government's coffers would be impacted by the loss of tax revenue? But they don't study them thing, No. Some of them working for these same 1% owned companies and griping and costing the same 1%. Talk about ingratitude. Worse than witchcraft, as they say. And then there's the issue of this property tax, which is supposed to come on stream this year. Persons have started receiving notices and so on. And it irks me. You see, I don't know why. Like some trainees don't have a problem with demonstrating the depth of their stupidity. Talking about, the government, all the rich people, all them business owners and them, they ain't had to pay no they ain't had to pay no property tax on the business and whatnot. And the poor man had to pay and the poor man had to suffer. So these rich people, right, we are saying own all these businesses, and because commercial taxes on commercial properties have not yet come in. Where they live in? On the street, in a tent in the bush, they're squatting on some piece of land in rural Trinidad and Tobago. They have to pay more property tax than the rest of you all who always yapping and griping. Why? Because the size of their homes and the areas in which they live and all of the amenities that they have in their private residences, not because they are business owners, means that they don't have to pay tax on the homes in which they live. And some of them, a lot of them have more than one house. They're living in one and they're renting 5 and 6. And when you go on these real estate company websites and you look at the properties that are available for rent in these high-end neighborhoods like Westmoreland and Federation Park and Goodwood Park and parts of Maraval and so on in West Trinidad and even in Southern Trinidad in places like Palm East and Gulfview and Laramine and these places, when you look at the prices that they are charging for rent, $5,500 US a month, $7,000 US a month, US, not TT. Where they're charging TT, well, some cases, well, $20,000 a month and so on. And these are the houses that they are renting. So they have to pay property tax on that too. So when you're renting out a property, which I saw yesterday on one of these real estate sites in Westmoreland for $5,500 US a month, you basically have told the government what your annual rental value is. The government don't want to do a valuation. You did that on your own. They did that on their own. And they put it so they cannot argue if the government comes and says, send them a notice for property tax based on a value of $5,500 US a month. They can't dispute that because the government can say, well, look, we went on this website, this real estate website, and that's where you're renting the property for. And we see that it was recently rented. So pay your property tax. So what is the property tax on 66,000 US for the year? Right? That's almost $500,000 in rent that this person is earning for the year. You know how much property tax that is? Plenty more than you who have to pay $981 for the year or $600 and something for the year. Right? Your boss, the person that you're working for who signed in your paycheck every month, they have to pay property tax to a heck of a lot more than you have to pay. But you're griping and complaining, the business and them. That will come. There's a process that the government will go through. But when all of you all who complaining now that why it is they only doing residential and not commercial and industrial, when the commercial and the industrial comes on stream, and these folks have to start paying that, and then they decide to increase the prices in the goods and services, they'll be singing a different tune. You'll be singing a different tune. You was calling for it. Well, if we had to pay property tax on where we live in, let them pay property tax on the business. But when the property tax come in the business now, and the attendant consequences when they say, well, our overheads have gone up because of property tax, and so we need to increase the price of this and the price of that. Same people who now complaining and want the government to implement commercial and industrial property tax will have a different tune. The cost of living going up and people suffering and all of that and all of that. Relax all yourself. You all should be happy that that hasn't been implemented as yet. And even some of them, you all who supporting that other party, they don't want it. They are saying, we don't want property tax at all. We don't want none. Whether it's commercial, residential, industrial, agricultural, we want no property tax. So the money that the government would be earning, particularly from the high-income earners, and the big shots who living in the mansions and who have 3 and 4 properties to rent out, the government will be collecting the majority of property tax from them. Some of them have already started to complain. Persons living in Federation Park saying, this valuation, all I do here is too high. They complaining in these big shot areas, right? But government says there's a facility in place. If it is you have an issue and you're saying you want to contest the valuation and we have put, come forward, bring your evidence, no problem. And if you have a case to be made and a proper case of that, well, we will look at it. And if we need to revise the valuation rate, so be it. And that is available to every citizen, not just the big shots. Available to all and sundry. But at the end of the day, these are the folks who will be paying more. And more money will be coming into the government's coffers. But they ain't seeing that, right? Some cities, anyway, you just can't please them. You cannot please them. Like last night, I'm driving home, and I had the radio on 91.9 before because I was listening to Juliet and Mr. Ruka, and well, when I came out of the car, so I had a meeting to attend that run until after 7 o'clock. So when I came back in the car, the radio was on 91.9 and Wall Street, and was it Uncle Tommy or something? So the program was going on, and Wall Street eating up himself because yesterday Juliet took a turn in his backside and he vexed, talking about he won in the PNM and he won in the PNM that Juliet Davy will be the downfall of the PNM in 2025 because the young people, that rhetoric that she's spreading there, and that ad hominem attacks, and he wanted, many of you may not know the meaning of ad hominem. I say, this man really feel, where you feel Trinidad and Tobago is a banana republic, we stupid, we dotish here. Well, some people, maybe some level of truth there. Not, but some level. Some people, right? But to come to talk about many of you who listen here wouldn't know the meaning of ad hominem. This man who talking about, always talking about splendiferous and all kind of stupidness. And can't even pronounce the word renown, talking about renown. And you're a big university professor and don't know the word is renowned and not renowned. Come now on Wall Street. Really? But what got me upset is the fact that he, and well, not so much, I don't know why he have this Uncle Tommy or everybody else, because he serves really no purpose. Aside from the fact the man sounds like living dead, his contribution, what is going on here? Folks, let me check this. Oh, come on, give me 1 second, folks. I don't know why this device is doing this. Forgive me, the folks on Facebook. So, all right, folks on Facebook, I don't know what's going on with my Facebook device this morning, so just give me 1 second. Stress. Right. I forgot to charge this thing and now, I don't know. Give it a moment. Yeah. So we get back into the group of that just now. Yeah, so I was making the point and so Wall Street is talking about government ain't doing nothing. The usual thing, they ain't doing nothing for the poor and so Kunji calls it. Those of you who listen to 91.9 would know who Kunji is. Can't stand that man. Right? The biggest hypocrite that there is. He calls in to talk about some work that the government doing on the highway to expand a lane or two so that they could ease the traffic. And I think the cost It's supposed to be around 60 something million. And of course, Wall Street had an issue with that, talking about they could spend that money, could be better spent to assist, to fix the schools and all of these different things. And they could always come and tell you all the other things the government could spend the money on, all the other things, the better things that it could be spent on as opposed to what it's being spent on, right? The same people who always complaining about the traffic heading south is terrible and all of that, coming to tell you what the government could spend the money on. So let me just give me a sec, folks. Let this thing get some charge. I really forgot to charge it, and I have it plugged in, but I don't know why it's not they're not charging. Anyway, yeah. But the hypocrisy and the dishonesty of people like Kunji, and I felt I had to mention because he got me real upset. Talking about he too come with the nonsense the government could have spent that money on something else, and some school where the children, 175 children, have to sit on the floor and all of that nonsense. And then saying that the government is only spending. So he went from they're not helping the poor and they're not doing anything for the poor, to they're only spending money now and fixing things in UNC constituencies, and they're only helping the East Indians and they ain't doing nothing for the Africans. And that the African parents need to come and step up and hold the government to account and try and see if they could get the government to do more things for the African youth. And then Wall Street jumps in with nonsense about 100 scholarships given out for Cape and CSEC or whatever as the case may be, and 70% was East Indian and all that. You see, they always had to bring race into this thing. They always have to bring race into it, right? Without understanding the dynamics of why these things have happened. So for instance, my alma mater, CIC, we got just one additional scholarship, right? And I've seen some talk about the place, CIC going through and this and that and all kind of thing, and these scholarships. The fact of the matter is, and what people are not aware of, is that in these schools, the reason why you would have a proliferation of scholarships going to certain schools is because other schools like CIC, QRC, and so on, what they are doing is that a lot of these students who have the potential to earn scholarships in Cape and CSEC, government scholarships, are not interested in these government scholarships. And I'm speaking here from empirical data that was given to me by the principal of CIC, that a lot of these students are in fact leaving in lower six because they're doing their SATs and getting full scholarships to all kind of US universities, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and all of that. So when they do their SATs in lower six and they get these full scholarships to go to these foreign universities, they're not interested in government scholarships. So those who go on to upper six really are not necessarily the cream of the crop. So, and even so, some of them who go on to upper six are doing the same thing, the SATs in upper six, and they're getting these scholarships and they're going abroad and they have no interest whatsoever in any scholarship that is being offered by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So when you look and you see some of these schools that traditionally would get a number of scholarships not getting it, that is what the reality is. Fatima and all of these, the same things happening. All of these students, they associate with one another and they have come to the decision, this is the better option. So they go abroad on these scholarships, and then when they finish, they look to get a job in the US, and then the next thing they know, they get their citizenship as the case maybe, or residency, and a lot of them end up staying abroad. They see SATs and going to these foreign universities as an opportunity, because remember, with the government scholarships, there is an obligation for you to come back to Trinidad and Tobago when you finish your studies for a period of service where you have to work in Trinidad and Tobago, I think, for about 2 years. When you do your SATs, there is no such obligation on these students. So that requirement for them to come back to Trinidad to work with the government, work with the state for a couple of years, that is acting as a disincentive for a lot of these students to even pursue, such that the school administration now has to be begging students, hey, you have the potential to get a government scholarship. Come now, man, even if you get a scholarship, and they decide they want to take it up with somebody, but that is what is happening now. School administration are begging students because they're just not interested. A lot of them seeing opportunities outside. Finish my schooling, whatever university, and then That's it. That's it. They stay across there. If they decide to come back after a few years, yes, but come on. And then you have a lot of alumni who would come and speak to the students from time to time. And these, again, former students who would have followed the same path, went to the US, studied in the US, Canada. They live in the US now, and then they are invited to come back and speak to the students to give them advice on how they could proceed. And when they tell these students that their minds are made up, all of the opportunities, the owner of 10 to 1 Rum, Mark Farrell, who is the son of former Deputy Central Bank Governor, can't remember Mr. Farrell's first name, slips me at the moment. Terence Farrell. He is a CIC alumni. He went abroad. He went to MIT. I think he went to Harvard, a couple of universities. And at one time, he was vice president of Starbucks in the US. And, but these guys are overly ambitious. And eventually, he decided to start 10 to 1 Rum. He's now come back home and so on. But these are the things that happen. People not aware of that. So when I listen to people like Wall Street talking up a kind of nonsense and have no clue as to what is going on. But you're a university professor, right? And some people listen to you because you're boasting you're a university professor. Let me try this thing again here for the Facebook people, right? One sec. So hopefully this thing will behave itself. Right. Yes, thank you, Michael. The same thing I'm saying. What race has to do with anything? But they always like to bring race into it because remember they have to paint in a picture and create the narrative that the government not doing nothing for Black people, they ain't doing nothing for Africans, they ain't doing nothing for the poor people because they believe that these are the demographics that predominantly support the PNM, and so you need to malign the PNM in the minds of these people. So create the narrative that they ain't doing nothing for Africans, they ain't doing nothing for Black people, right? To get Black people vexed. The same people who telling you Keith Rowley is a racist. He don't like East Indian people. Is this? But I don't know. So one day Dr. Rowley is a racist. He don't like East Indian people. But the same people who telling you that coming to tell you Rowley have too much East Indians in his cabinet, and he only given all the plump ministerial portfolios to persons of East Indian descent. Same people who telling you he's a racist, Same people telling you he doesn't like East Indians, but they quick to say A.V. Drilling, the owner of A.V. Drilling is an East Indian, and they want to tell you that's Dr. Rowley's best friend. They want to point out to tell you that he went south to play mass and was whining on a 17-year-old East Indian girl, but he's a racist. Pick a struggle. It's either he is or he isn't. But you see, when it's convenient for them to say that he's a racist, and then when they need to pander to the persons of African descent, to try and sow seeds of discord to say, well, look, the PNM supposed to be an African party, but they're doing things for everybody else except African. All of a sudden, he loves East Indians. And he loves the 1%. He don't like persons of African descent. And I keep hearing dumb and dotish, right? Captain Clueless and Professor Misinformation. What they call them, Mutt and Jeff. And then coming back to Wall Street to pushing this nonsense what the government ain't doing, they're supposed to do for the poor and do for the poor and then doing nothing for the poor. But you all need to educate yourself on what it is that the government is doing for the poor. The fact that they're building 600 homes for 600 families, not 600 persons, 600 families at no cost to these families. The state spending the money. So I see NGC reported a profit of $2.38 billion. And of course, the conversation, when you read the comments, is about that, yeah, but that money ain't going, how that helping the poor, and how that helping the average citizen, and we still paying high prices for food, and we still paying high prices for gas and all of that, and the government wants to bring property tax and all that profit. Why I feel so when NGC makes a profit that they just take all the profit and give it to the government? NGC doesn't need working capital and all of these different things, right? Just remember, NGC has shareholders as well, right? Whichever fund, different funds and so on. So when I listen to this nonsense, this narrative, and I keep making the point People who talking about government making that NGC making all this profit and this one making all this profit, but yet still food prices high and cost of living high. The government imports food. Does the government want a chain of grocery stores that they could put limits on the price of these things? These people who don't understand, they understand, but they just choose to be dotish. The government cannot tell the private sector what to charge, how much to charge for their goods and services. They cannot do that. When a man spends his money to open a business, he's looking for profit and as much profit as he could earn. And if the government wants to step in to tell the man you could only earn this amount of profit and no more, then there's a disincentive for this man to continue his business. They're always talking about foreign direct investment, and we need more foreign companies to come and invest here. But if the government of Trinidad and Tobago is telling these companies, well, you could come and set up shop, but you could only earn so much profit. You can only charge so much for your products. They're not coming here for any government to put out to regulate. Folks, I had to forget about this thing now. Yeah, so I don't know what's happening this morning with Facebook, with this device, but so Facebook people, they had to forgive me. I had to check it out on YouTube. I'm tired. I just need to leave this thing on. I'll probably just get a new one. Yeah, so you cannot regulate and tell the business owners what to charge. They keep talking about, well, now with $2 billion, we're supposed to see a decrease in the cost of fuel. The United States, and I always give the example, has more oil and more gas than Trinidad and Tobago ever had and ever will have. And yet still, there is no subsidy on fuel in the US. The citizens pay whatever is the prevailing price based on the price of oil. There is no subsidy. None. They are complaining. I look at every night, I look at about 3 different stations, Florida news stations, and you see the story, people complaining about the high cost of living there in Florida. They're complaining the price of property taxes, the cost of property taxes, the high cost of insurance for their homes, the high cost of insurance for their vehicles, which seems to be skyrocketing now, and they're complaining about that. And now the general consensus is it is too expensive to live in Florida, which is a state that people, and there are no, and the interesting is there's no income tax in Florida. Florida doesn't tax people's income, which was one of the incentives, the draws for people to come to Florida. And now people are leaving Florida because they're saying it's become too expensive. But the government of the US has plenty money. They could print money, aside from the fact that they're earning money from taxes. Lots of, because they probably have the most taxes in the world. And then you have the money that the government gets from the oil and gas sector. I mean, come on. But anyway, I wanted to play something for you all, right? Let me get it here. But before I go there, before I play that, no, well, it's related. So coming back to the initial conversation about Mr. Panday's passing and people who feel you shouldn't talk about the negatives associated with Mr. Panday. Those to whitewash all of the wrong things that took place between 1995 to 2001. And would give you the impression, as they say, Mr. Panday was the best prime minister. And I'll play something for you all from Professor Misinformation as to why he thinks Mr. Panday was the best. And they come back again with this thing about how he helped black people. And who is black people? Say, well, they want to say African people. But the reasoning that he gave, but I'll play that just now. What I wanted to touch on, to the people who are saying, now is not the time to talk about the negatives associated with Mr. Panday out of respect and consideration for his loved ones. Okay, fine, no problem. But as I said before, when you have persons out there who are spinning a narrative that Mr. Panday was an angel, that Mr. Panday's administration was above reproach, right? Without sin. So, and that contributes to him being the best prime minister. You have to respond now, because these people are saying these things now, and you have to address it. You're going to say, well, all right, let me don't talk about that because, you know, it's still fresh and they ain't buried the man yet. So after, when he will talk about it. So you think a day after the funeral is appropriate? The family wouldn't be grieving and mourning at that time. So should we wait, what, 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months after Mr. Panday has passed? 1 year? When that conversation is no longer in the public space? Because rest assured, about 2 weeks from now, Mr. Panday would be a footnote onto other things. But I want to remind some of the hypocrites in the UNC, that party, right? People like Debunking, who is accusing Dr. Rowley of trying to tarnish Mr. Panday's legacy because Dr. Rowley took issue or spoke out about how he feels about the Integrity Commission, the current Integrity Commission, where he feels, and he was responding, it's not something that Dr. Rowley initiated. He was responding to something that the former chairman of the Integrity Commission spoke about with respect to the Integrity Commission not having enough funds and so on to do their work. Dr. Rowley made the point that they need to stop spending money on politically motivated investigations, investigating him for a number of things, all kind of foolishness, resulting in misleading articles in the newspaper, right? So Dr. Rowley was speaking to that issue, and leave it up to this moron Debunking, all of these attention seekers who they're trying to draw blood from stone to see how they could milk Mr. Panday's passing to try and salvage whatever is left of their political careers, whatever juice they could get to assist, to help that struggling party. Because every day you're seeing and hearing things, news that is good news for the PNM. So aside from the Dragon Gas deal, NGC $2.something billion in profits, all of these different things that are happening, it's not good news for them. That the narrative they're pushing that the economy is suffering and the economy in shambles and it's on the brink and in free fall. But there is evidence to the contrary. When we read the newspapers and we see all of these companies that are declaring profits much higher than anything they would have declared between 2010 to 2015. And they can't refute that. What they going to tell the company, are they lying or they just make up those figures to make the PNM look good? These are the things that they cannot deal with. So they see, well, we could draw some sympathy. Mr. Panday has died, and he was the founder of the UNC. So let's see how much sympathy the party could get. If you want any evidence that Kamla Prasad-Bissessa's conscience beating her, go on her Facebook page. After she put out that weak, lame tribute to Mr. Panday shortly after his passing last week, Monday. Now, almost every day, I set up posts about Mr. Panday and Mr. Panday all over her Facebook page. Yeah, only Mr. Panday all of a sudden she put in out a whole set of stuff. To fool who? To fool who? Because you all realize that only getting some licks. Dr. Rowley went to sign the condolence book. All he did, he went in, sit down, he signed it. He didn't carry a whole camera crew to take pictures of him. He didn't have to do a press conference afterwards and talk to the media and so on. But a whole production from the UNC. So they had to put out an announcement that the leader of the opposition will be leading the UNC MPs to sign the condolence book. Right? So they want to let the public know, well, look, we will be paying tribute to Mr. Panday as a team. So they sent out a whole release to tell people that. And then all of them, so they orchestrated, all the parliamentarians and stuff, senators, elected MPs, all of them lined up in the courtyard by the Red House, waiting for when the Queen arrives. As I said, the only thing they didn't do was to lie down and allow her to walk on their back. So all of them line up, and then she has to come in, of course, with the assistance of her police escort, to shake everybody's hand and go down the line. And full camera crew recording her going, shaking everybody's hand. She could barely walk, right? But want to shake a whole production. She had to shake everybody's hand, right? And then they go inside and they line up and so on, and they sign the condolence book. She said, she write a whole essay, probably about 4 or 5 minutes taken to write on that. And at the end of it, she says, are you all happy? Who are you talking to? And who are you asking if they're happy? Is it that somebody forced your hand to tell you needed to do that? To impress who? They're asking, well, you happy now? Whole production, and he had a whole press conference afterwards now to talk about Mr. Panday, and he want to give the others the opportunity to speak and so on. You all see the PNM do that? Did Dr. Rowley hold a whole press conference and call ministers to come and talk about their experiences with Mr. Panday? If any one of them want to do that individually, if the media contact them for a comment, no problem. Dr. Rowley went, he signed, he left, like everybody else. But no, UNC did a whole production. And then, of course, they have to share it all over on their Facebook pages and so on. So look what we do. Look what we do. What did you all do? Mr. Panday wanted nothing to do with you all. You always said what this UNC, that is not a political party. He was very critical of the UNC in his last days, but all they coming now to cry crocodile tears and you all want to defend Mr. Panday's good reputation. Miss us with that BS Nadeem Tanku. You end up looking like a fool because even your own UNC supporters blast you and tell you stop playing politics with the man's death. Well, you're on foolishness. Foolishness. Right? Let me just remind them. All who's saying, now is not the time. The 14th of July, 2016. Newspaper article entitled "SAT Torches ex-PM's Legacy." This is mere days after Mr. Manning had died. General Secretary of the SDMS, Sat Maharaj, yesterday launched an extraordinary verbal attack on former Prime Minister Patrick Manning, describing him as a racist. In a harsh assessment, totally out of step with laudatory ones heaped on Manning in the week between his death and his burial, Maharaj said he and several members of the public came to that conclusion on a talk show program on Radio Jagriti on Tuesday, based on a series of discriminatory practices Manning perpetuated against East Indians in TNT while he served as Prime Minister. In retrospect, Mr. Maharaj said he felt hurt that many of Manning's actions were racist, unfair, and biased against a number of East Indians in the country. I only spoke about the facts. What I spoke about was his performance as Prime Minister. I started off by discussing the many discriminatory things he did. He couldn't think of nothing good to say about Mr. Manning. As Prime Minister, he acted in a discriminatory manner, Maharaj said in a telephone interview. Manning, 69, died on July 2nd at San Fernando General Hospital. The closure of Carney 1975 Limited, whose employees are mostly East Indians, Maharaj said was one decision Manning made that crippled the lives of thousands of struggling Indians. We are now importing sugar, while Barbados and Guyana have sugar industries, he said. But he wouldn't speak to the fact that the process to end or to close Carney would have started under Panday, who recognized, and people like Rafiq Shah, who was integral, who played an integral role in that sector, who would have written articles about the state of Carney 1975 Limited at the time when the Manning administration came in. You see, all of these revisionists wouldn't talk about that aspect of it, right? But where all of these bleeding hearts, where were they to defend Mr. Manning when Sat Maharaj did that? All who say, no, it's not the time to talk about that. Leave Panday alone now, gosh, man. We only focus on the positives that the man did. The same man who, when he was asked to speak about the positives, the good things that his predecessor, Ian R. Robinson, did when he was Prime Minister, in the wake of Mr. Robinson's death, would have made the statement, good things? I can't think of any. Perhaps I might have missed them. That's best that he could have seen, right? But no, let us only speak good of Mr. Panday. But in the wake of Sat Maharaj doing that, the current leader of the opposition, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, when she was asked for comment on Sat Maharaj's tirade against Dr. Rowley, and when he was rightly admonished for his foolishness, several quarters, even people who don't like the PNM and didn't like Mr. Manning, came to Mr. Manning's defense. Kamla Persad-Bissessar wasn't willing so to do. Opposition leader, and this is an article dated the 15th of July 2016. This is the day after Sat Maharaj made his statement. Kamla defends Sat in Manning attack, a courageous fighter and warrior. Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar says it is very dangerous for Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley to accuse one of TNT's leaders, Sat Maharaj, of sedition. Maharaj has been under attack after he called the late Patrick Manning a racist a week after his funeral. Addressing supporters at the launch of the UNC's screening in Sapara yesterday, Persad-Bissessar said, I think it is very dangerous for a Prime Minister to speak about sedition. It is one of the few offenses in this country that is punishable by jail without bail. One is murder, one is charged for piracy on the high seas, and the other is sedition. Well, now we know it's just two, because they have been successful in having murder overturned as a non-bailable offense. So now the only other offenses we have that are non-bailable is piracy on the high seas and sedition. And we know they tried to get rid of the sedition law, so it's just for them to deal with piracy on the high seas now. Prasad Bisesa also said people were entitled to the freedom of speech. In this country, and here her defendants at Maraj calling Mr. Manning a racist, right? In this country, constitutionally, we are entitled to freedom of speech unless our freedom of speech breaches the law. Then we are free to speak, and therefore the PM coming to attack Mr. Maraj yesterday, not on the reasoning that he gave, not on the substance of his argument, but in an attempt to create fear to talk about sedition. Calling Maharaj a courageous fighter and a warrior, Prasad Bisesa said, Maharaj, like any other person in this country, is entitled to his opinion, and he has, like everyone else, freedom of speech. The question the PM should be asking is, did he speak the truth or did he lie? Did he speak the truth when he said that Carney 1975 Limited was shut down by the Manning administration? Is that true or not true? Did he speak the truth when a PNM supporter got a radio license within a day, whereas the Mahasabha had to go through the courts right up to the Privy Council to get lawfully a radio license? Saying she will not put the label as racist, Prasad Bisesa added, I am not going into that today because I believe in this country, every creed and race must find an equal place, and therefore I am not going into the label of racist. What I am saying is whether the examples that Mr. Maraj gave were true. So she couldn't say no, Patrick Manning was not a racist. I'm not going into that today. I wouldn't put the label of racist. So what label would you put Mrs. Prasad Bisesa? When everybody else was telling Sati damn fast and out of place, disrespectful in the extreme, you came to his defense because remember, as your guru, talk, Sat talk. When Sat talk, he talking for we. She also said to distort the reality of what happened in TNT must never happen. Let me repeat that. She also said to distort the reality of what happened in TNT must never happen. That's not what they're doing now. That's not what she and her cronies doing now, trying to distort what happened in TNT. But it mustn't happen. It shouldn't have happened with Mr. Manning. But under Mr. Panday, with Mr. Panday's passing away, yes, feel free to distort it. Admitting that Manning did a great job as Prime Minister, Prasad Bisesa said, Rowley should not use the word sedition lightly. So that's the only thing she could say. Yes, Manning did a great job as Prime Minister. But I wouldn't go so far as to say that he wasn't a racist. I'm not saying that he is, but I'm not saying that he wasn't either. That's basically what she's saying, right? All these bleeding hearts, where were they to come and defend Mr. Manning's reputation? Where were they? Sat could say that is his view. If he wants to ascribe racism to it, no problem. That's his business. But I don't make it true because Sat said it. But as far as Prasad Bisesa was concerned, Sat said it, so it's true. It had to be true. But let me don't talk about the negatives with Mr. Panday. No. Everything, any negative that you all could talk about, that was a PNM attempt to a smear campaign to make the UNC look corrupt. Her words. Her words. Let me get this in. Where is it? Sorry. Put on this here. I want to play a little bit of this thing here. So let me get it. Because I saw a number of prominent UNC supporters sharing this foolishness, right? In fact, I saw when the UNC went to the parliament last week, Friday, to sign the condolence book and so on, the Papi show, the production, they had a number of protesters outside the parliament, and they weren't there to protest the PNM. They weren't there to protest the government. They were protesting the UNC and its political leader. And they had placards reading, "We love you, Mr. Panday. We are sorry, Mr. Panday. You were right. The UNC needs a leader like Mr. Panday." Several signs that said, "We are sorry, Mr. Panday. You were right. Time for Kamala to retire," and so on. She normally loves to come outside whenever she sees signs like that outside the parliament. She would normally go across the road and shake hands and so on. There was none of that last week, Friday, because all of the signs that were there, right, were adverse to her. And it was UNC supporters who were there. It's unfortunate, though, that all of them had to wear masks to hide their face because they're afraid of the victimization. But it's the PNM they like to tell you is a dictatorship, right? You're not free to say what you want in the PNM. But here it is that these people have a view that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa needs to go, that the current leadership of the UNC is a mess. And they come out there, all of them have on masks on their face, on their faces, so that nobody could recognize them and cuss them out afterward and call them the Makaram and all kind of thing when they go back home. I see you on TV. I see you protesting, Kamla. You're a nastiness. Or it's all so. Imagine that. They're not free to show their faces, to express their disappointment. This is the second time when she went to the Nagar for Diwali. The same thing, you had a group of protesters with signs calling for her to go and so on. And all of them had to wear masks on their faces to hide their face so that they wouldn't be victimized because they're attacking the great leader that is Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Yeah, but that party, oh yes, no, this is a democracy here. Nobody needs to fear. You could express your views. So why all of them wearing masks? Why every time they protest in Persad-Bissessar, they had to wear a mask? None of that in the PNM. When PNM people want to cuss Dr. Rowley, they do it freely. They couldn't care less. Ask the activists, the PNM activists from East Dry River. Well, they know what I'm talking about. Ask her. When she want to cuss Dr. Rowley and cuss the PNM, she has no problem doing her live in her house while she eating whatever it is. And has the worst of things to say. Let me get this. Let me put on this. This is another craving indulgence morning, but it's not the Douglas. Not the Douglas this morning. Like he behaving himself these days. I don't know if it is he too drunk. But anyway, listen to Professor Misinformation.
Shed some light and give us some educational information on this video here about our former Prime Minister Basio Panday. For all the young people and them who don't know, and all the people and them who listen to a sort of stupid and rumors out there and talking a sort of crap, right? It will be remiss of me not to shed some light about the contribution that this man did for people, especially Black people in Trinidad and Tobago. Because I'll miss me with that racial stupidness, and I real upset this morning, right? But I'll try to contain my feelings, my emotions to do this video, right? There are people in this country who only want to tie Basio Panday to the airport scandal, the Piako airport scandal, when they was rebuilding the airport, right? We're building a new airport, right? I want to tie his name to the corruption that went on there, right? But I want to remind them of something. We Black people who dotish and stupid sometimes, you understand? Those of you who only believe in the PNM, or the sycophants and fanatics, I want to talk to you this morning. Because I didn't understand what's going on, right? Basio Panday, right, was the man who bring foreign used cars in this country, who opened the gateway for foreign used cars to come in this country. And if he didn't do that, I'll be honest with you, I would have never drive a car. Right? Back in those days, only the elitists, 1%ers was bringing in car in this country. And for somebody to buy a car, you understand? You have to pay a down payment and wait. Sometimes 2-3 years, people waiting for the car to come in. Right? I want to bring in the car, they're taking out the AC, they're taking out the automatic window, they're taking out all the things the car come back and telling you how to pay more money to put in them things in the car. Yes, that's what I was doing. Right? So all poor people can buy is a little sunny with a wind up with no air condition. It's when foreign used car come in this country, people know about nice car, man can buy a little L'Oreal or a little 626 or some kind of Corolla or something in this country for people to drive. And if it wasn't for Panday, half of them B13, B14 and American would have never be here. All who driving now would have never been driving no car. You understand? Also, the man opened the gates with education, with tertiary education, dollar for dollar, whereby the government will match your contribution, whereby you have to put forward, the government will match it for your children to go to university. Right? And next thing the man do for Black people, all them people who are squatting all over the place, when the PNM was bulldozing down the house and thing, and they wasn't giving them no running water, no electricity. Panday say give the people water, electricity. Give them electricity, they can try and read up the book and do the homework, and get them water. Don't deny them. And plenty people get that comfort under Panday, including Black people. Plenty people. The next thing the man do is open foreign exchange. open the foreign oh God, the currency for small business and other businesses to get US to go and buy things to bring in here. Before central bank was only giving the elitists and them only 1% was getting foreign currency to bring in without bringing in, and only them alone was eating our food. Them alone can't bring in foreign thing here. Yeah, so them alone was getting forex. Panday open it up so all small business people can go and get a little forex in the bank. They can go by the oh gosh, I know call the name there. You understand? But they can get forex and bring in the cars and bring in the thing and bring in to buy everything in the US. And the government right now, this wicked PNM government squeezing the small businessman from getting forex. But they're giving them 1%. That's the one do Obia. Millions of dollars are going to spend to do Obia and we forex. Eh? But I want to talk about Panday. Panday give the Baptist community, the same Baptist community, give them land to build schools and give them the spiritual Baptist holiday. So they miss me with all the talk about talking Panday. They should give the airport after all. All the talking about why they give him Panday, why they name the Panday, they have the airport after Panday. I don't care. The man do plenty for black people in the Trinidad and Tobago. I have conquest of that things, and I don't know how I want. I don't remember. You see that water for all program? Let me tell you something. For years, I live in Mova, right in Second Caledonia, and couldn't get water to my house. Couldn't get water. I took water from the age of 3 years old till I was 20 something. It's when Panday come in and bring in the water for all project and run water and run pipe to people's house. The PNM never do that, and there's a PNM stronghold. I can battle Panday, boy. I can say no name nothing of them. Although deceitful and wicked and ungrateful for the contribution that man make for we people here. But everybody in Trinidad and Tobago could attest to what I'm saying here. If you feel like go and research it for yourself. You understand? That man was a people's government. He also, when he in his tenure to solve crime, right? He bring in the E999 service. And when they came back in the stuff that the community patrol, comfort patrol, he bring in that. There were no new taxes on that Panday, and he raised all his pension from $800 to $1,500 to the people. And then come and raise it to $3,000. PNM never raised all his pension for them more people and them. Instead of wicked and evil, come to tell me I said that stupidness, but oh, Panday this and they corrupt and all kind of stupidness, all the bad talking and dead man who can't defend himself. Well, they miss me with that now, out that timing, boy. Sure, that doesn't need to understand, and then people know I do this video for people to know what the man doing now. Because all I hear is negative on the man, boy. So I just do the video to do some positive about what the man do, boy. Me not in the politics thing with all the boy, you know, PMUNC thing. Panday help me, boy. If it wasn't for Panday, I would have never been driving. No car out there. If you like, remember, I could have gone forth to go and buy a new car by Masio by answer. No.
Yeah, that was painful. It was painful the first time I listened to it, and it was painful that second time too. Yes, sir. That's the end of it. Yeah, that's the end of it. 7 minutes and 12 seconds. You know, there's I always mention a saying. It's better you keep quiet and let people think you're an idiot. Let people think you're a clown. Let people think you're dotish than to speak and remove all doubt. Right? Apparently, he never heard that saying. Because what he just said there, I mean, we knew before that he was an idiot. But he just reinforced it with that piece of crap that he just talked there. First of all, there's so many things they could address in that piece of nonsense. And yet still, this individual is able to speak 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, on a radio station, and then on a Saturday too. To be listening to this drivel over and over. Oh, Ole, bad talking a dead man, and he can't defend himself. But this same idiot, he and the next one, every opportunity they get, always bad talking Eric Williams. Eric Williams is apparently Dr. Williams still alive, right? misrepresenting history, telling you all kind of things about Eric Williams when he was prime minister and so on. That he's not alive today to defend himself. But the very thing that he is condemning is the same thing he does on a daily basis on that radio station. But you want to come and do a live to talk nonsense about, oh, they bad talking a dead man and he can't defend himself. Misrepresented every time. Knows absolutely nothing about Eric Williams and the PNM. But always want to come every evening to talk stupidness enabled by a listenership, right, that is just as clueless as the two of them. Talking about Panday brought in Comfort Patrol. Comfort Patrol was Kamla Prasad Bissasan. They did that between 2010 to 2015. Oh, Mr. Panday brought that in. And were it not for Panday, the black man and the small man wouldn't have been able to purchase, to afford a vehicle, and he would have never been driving a car. If it is because you clearly it had to be because you're a clown. So he tried to tell you if Panday didn't open up the foreign use car industry, that even today you wouldn't have been able to drive a car, right? Never mind the fact, the same economy that they're telling you is in shambles. All of these new car establishments doing very well. Look at the cars that you're seeing on the road, right? Here, Massey has a brand called MG. You know how many of these SUVs you're seeing on the road today? Those are not coming in foreign used. Brand new, right? So you have so many different brands. I saw just a couple of years ago, I was telling you all where Volvo was saying 85% increase in sales in an economy that's suffering and that on the brink of collapse and all of that. Hilux, what's this other one? Navara, Tucson, all of these different vehicles that people buying brand new today, but this clown wants to come and tell you about, oh, had it not been for Panday. Ask him about the car that he's driving now. Not the one he had before, the car that he's driving now. I think that he recently bought when he was talking about how he went to the bank and whatnot and anything, right? But that's what Panday did for black people. That he deserves a medal. He deserves the ORTT, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, because he opened up the foreign use car industry so that poor people and black people could buy a foreign use car. That he deserves that. Yes, he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for that. For that, that's what he do for black people, right? Because and then yesterday he plays a clip with an interview that was done by Mr. Panday where he was speaking to this whole issue of the foreign use car thing, and he was saying, you know, when he came in, he realized that the government had established certain quotas and certain restrictions on the importation of foreign used cars, and he decided to fix that. So we had to believe that Mr. Panday was just lying on his bed one night, and a voice just came to him and said, Baz, you need to open up the foreign used car industry. You come in as the prime minister, you have all of these things to deal with, right? You have a country to run. But for some reason, the foreign used car just stood out to you. You just went to your office one day, sit down, you know, you're meeting with whoever, you have cabinet meeting, meeting with your constituents and so on, whatever documents. And all of a sudden, foreign used car industry just pop into your head. Nothing else, nothing to do with healthcare, nothing to do with education, nothing to do with national security, where at one time he would have taken up the responsibility for national security, and when it was water, more and flour, put his hands up in the air and say, you know, he don't know what to do. Yeah? Nothing to do with that. Nothing about trade and commerce, right? Nothing about the food import bill, which has been high for years. None of these things appeal to Mr. Panday, as did his concern about the foreign used car industry. So he felt he needed to do something about that. Yeah, that's how it came to him. As a dream, a voice spoke to him out of the wilderness. It had nothing to do with the interest. Those who wanted to bring in the foreign used car to eat a food, drink a juice, and belch, talking to him. You know the lobbyists? So that when he went to these big shot parties that they want to tell you only Dr. Rowley does go to, even though I never see Dr. Rowley go to no big shot party with no 1% or any other percent for that matter. Dr. Rowley never did like Mrs. Prasad Bissasan and throw no big bram in the Prime Minister's residence for the 1% community at taxpayers' expense. And the only non-1%ers who were there were the tokens from the UNC, her cabinet and so on, and maybe one or two others. Right? Dr. Rowley never did that. And then praised them and say, you know, if the rest of the country were to emulate what the Syrian Lebanese community is doing, would be a much richer, much and all kind of thing. Yeah? I remember that. I'll find it, just see if I find it just now and play it back for you all as a reminder. Dr. Oli never did that. Right? So, Mr. Panday, whatever he did with respect to the used car, it had nothing to do with interests. Lobbyists coming to him and tell him, Baz, here, when I'm like, so we could do better for a used car thing now. You know, Manning squeeze and we were here, but organize that. Who were the persons who were importing these cars? Was he small man and Professor Misinformation? Yeah, he's a black man. The black man was doing that. They were the first other people to import foreign used cars into this country to sell to other black men, poor black men who couldn't afford a brand new car. So it had nothing to do with anybody whispering in Mr. Panday's ears other than the night wind that came to him. You know, like the angel appeared to Mary, an angel appeared unto Mr. Panday and tell him, hey, open up the foreign used car industry. This idiot. And want to make it seem as if Panday's motivation to do that was out of care and love for the average man who couldn't afford to buy a car, a brand new car. And we need to find a way for them to be able to purchase a car. That was his only motivation. Yeah? Only motivation. Nothing else. But the people who benefited the most, people like that one from Bamboo, the loudmouth from Bamboo, yeah? People like them who benefited the most. He got to talk about that. It wasn't to benefit them. It wasn't so that certain people who supported that party could get rich overnight. It had nothing to do with that. No. None of these people made any contributions to the UNC's election campaign. None of the people who benefited the most from that used car industry were UNC financiers. It had nothing to do with that. It's just because Mr. Panday so loved the poor and so loved those persons, the average citizen who couldn't afford to buy a vehicle, that he said, let me do this. This is what this clown wants to tell you. Dollar for dollar. Panday open up education when he come with dollar for dollar and the government would match. So what about the tens of thousands of people who didn't have a dollar? What about them? What about them, Professor Misinformation? Panday, you didn't have a dollar either, because if you had a dollar, you wouldn't be talking that trash. How about Panday open up that? Really? How many people benefited from that? How many people? How many people benefited from that? I just asked the question because Mr. Manning came in afterwards, did away with dollar for dollar, and brought in gate. He say, here what? Panday only opened half the gate. So those of you who on the side that with the side of gate that was locked, I opened the whole blasted gate. Everybody come. Whether you have dollar or you may have. You have a dollar, keep it. Use it to buy something else, to buy books, to buy a laptop or something. But come, largest of the state, making money, everybody, we paying for everybody. Right? But he want to, you think when it is that Murad said that nastiness and called Mr. Manning a racist and all of that, you think, did this clown do a live to defend Mr. Manning? Did he do that? Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. But you come in now to tell us, oh, you only hear a negative thing about Mr. Panday and you have to come and set the record straight and all the good things that Mr. Panday did. Aside from Mr. Manning opening the gate, both sides of the gate, came up with help, higher education loan program, because you are gate paying for your tuition, but there are other things that you need. You need to get your laptop, you need to get your books and other supplies. So we'll provide low interest loan program so you can access that. State put on the money there, go in the bank, get a loan as the case may be, right? And you get your money so that you're able to ensure that when you start your schooling, you're well equipped. You don't have to be squinting looking for money. Oh gosh, I have money to buy the books, but the state paid for the tuition. I want to ask him, dollar for dollar paid for that? Dollar for dollar had that component? No, but Panday was best prime minister ever. And best prime minister ever. Nonsense about Panday open up the US currency market. You see, when you're lying and you're misinformed and all you're doing is a set of semantics, you don't even know what you're talking about. Really, how did Mr. Panday do that? He's the only person I hear talking that janjan. And while this current administration squeezing the small business for the forex, and Mr. Panday open it up and small business people could get forex. How did Panday do that? Please share with us. Tell us how Mr. Panday did that. As if this administration has control over the distribution of foreign exchange. Because when it is that the central bank releases foreign exchange to these commercial banks, apparently Dr. Rolly has picked up the phone and called the head of each bank and tell them, or Mr. Embert picks up the phone and calls the head of the bank and tell them who to give the foreign exchange to, right? This is not based on any relationship that the banks have with their customers. Because apparently the only way Massey could get foreign exchange is through the local banks. Massey doesn't earn foreign exchange in the many territories in which they operate. The fact that they have a chain of supermarket stores in the US. Apparently the income that they earn from this chain of supermarkets in the US is Bolivares or TT dollars. They earn in TT dollars with a US business. This club, we're talking about the young people and the young people. This is the type of misinformation, but thank God the young people don't listen to that station. In the main. So that when I listened last night to Wall Street talking about Juliet Davy will be the downfall of the PNM come 2025 because the young people listening and the young people listening and the young people not falling for that rhetoric and that the young people not listening to 91.9. Right? Not all of Trinidad and Tobago listens to 91.9. And in any event, I don't see that Juliet is saying anything that, well, the only people it would turn off would be those persons who are already anti-PNM. So all it does is incense them. But it makes no other difference otherwise. Right? Because as to the best of my knowledge, Juliet was around in 2020. And she was preaching the same message in 2020. And the PNM still won the election in 2020. So she isn't doing anything different today than what she would have done in 2020. But because she's taken a turn in all her backside, right? And she is pressing home the advantage, all her vex. In fact, on Sunday, someone called me while I was at the Savannah. Someone who, a good friend of mine, and who is also is a friend of the owner of that radio station. And I haven't spoken to this individual in quite some time. And so they were telling me, they're like, so what went on with you and Iowa? I say, well, and the person, as I said, is very good with Iowa as well. And they say, well, they met him on somewhere recently, and they were having a conversation, and he brought up the topic about why I'm no longer at 91.9. And I don't know if it was an attack of conscience or whatever, but the person would have indicated to me that, so I will inquire of them what I told them as to the reason why I'm no longer there. So the individual said, well, Dominic can tell us nothing, we didn't talk what he thinks. So he said, I was telling them, I sure he called earlier and tell as if, let me tell you something. When it is that I got that call from Robert telling me that, okay, they decided to replace me on Titans of Democracy, the only person I called was Sharon Felix. Nobody else. Not even Bruce, who was my co-host. Bruce called me after when I called Sharon, and I told Sharon, look, so is the case. Sharon called Bruce and tell him whatever it is she had to tell him. And then Bruce called me to say, hey, what went on there? Sharon tell me things. So I said, well, you didn't know? And he said, no. I said, well, yeah, this is what went on. I called nobody else. But I don't know if it's an attack of conscience that here we are, almost a year later. And the person said, the owner of that radio station rings out there for about an hour talking about, circumstances that. And finally, he admitted it, that what it was, and it's nothing different from what I told you, that when I used to come on Tuesday after the Monday night forum, and I would ask Bruce to play certain clips based on things that I would have heard that I felt I needed to correct the record and debunk, that whenever that happened, so after I did that, when we go to a break, Bruce would get a phone call. And the phone call would tell him, in some instances with the use of some expletives, which is what I do now for. I think I do that because the people paying the money and whatnot and so on and so on. Right? So Bruce used to get both all the time. And then after when Bruce come up, Bruce used to be like, but why they calling me? It's not me. It's you think. Why they ain't calling you? And I say, well, they know why they ain't calling me. So the individual who I was speaking to on Sunday was telling me that the owner of that station is telling them that the reason why I'm no longer there is because of that very thing. That when I used to come on a Tuesday and play clips, snippets of what would have been said the night before, the Monday night forum, and expose them as the liars and the bastards are there, that Munilal would have called the ownership of the radio station and tell them, hey, Baleka Haraman doing that. We spending our money on your station to broadcast our thing, and then this man coming the next day and mashing us up. So you need to do something about it, right? Because we're not having it. If you can't fix the problem, we need to carry our program elsewhere. We can't be spending money and you have this man coming the next day and doing that, right? So they were listening, well aware. But of course, the truth, they need to keep it hidden. And they figured they could have come on that station, which is a highly PNM licensed station, with your lies to confuse people, and it would go unchallenged. And I would have had none of it. None of it. As I always say, I do not like them, right? I cannot stand the best bone in rural Munilal's body. People like Saddam Hussein, and my disdain for them is simply because they have shown themselves to be inveterate liars. They're liars and they're disrespectful. I always say if you want to criticize the government, go right ahead and do it. No problem. But let it be on the basis of truth. And if you're going to lie, make sure the truth is well hidden. Because if I find it, I will expose you. Right? And they couldn't handle that. The same thing I tell earlier. So that when you were here and they're talking all pack and nonsense about the things with ads and I wasn't playing the ads and all kind of foolishness and all of that. No, at the end of the day, it was about the almighty dollar. And the owner of the radio station would have made the point that he's not getting paid for the other programs, the programs that are PNM centric, the programs that are PNM leaning. There is no money coming from the PNM for those programs. And in those circumstances, he had to protect that which was paid, which was the Monday Night Forum. And since other persons would not have been going to the extremes that I was going to expose the lies of those bastards, well, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And since they were paying for that, well, they call the tune and they say, well, yeah, well, I need to do something about that. So it was something that was building up over time. So they started with the Sunday program, say they want to, for this carnival, and they want to give an opportunity to the artists to come in. But they had a program Saturday with live wire. You could have bring in the artists then. No, we want to get the artists hour or two to come in and okay. This is the second time they did that. Second, I saw that coming because I remember the first time that they did it, right? That's when I used to have Facts versus Opinion in the evening from 4 to 7. It was the same thing he did. You come and tell me while you're taking the program, taking a little break for the carnival, and after the carnival, we will come back. And then after the carnival, right, it became a permanent thing, permanently replaced, and didn't have the decency to say, well, look, so is the case. You come back a second time, same thing, use carnival as an excuse. You want to create a platform, a space for the artists to come and showcase their wares. And of course, the only program you could find to do that was mine. And then after carnival, now when they say it's supposed to come back, right? Because they can't deal with the hard facts. That's the problem. So when it is that you have a political party that will resort to such measures, right? If you're telling the truth, and if what you're putting out there is fact, then why it is you shouldn't be threatened by me? Your truth should be able to debunk me, but instead of the other way around. But you realize that your activists, the people who call in on the radio station for you, cannot defend your lying agenda in the way that you want. And you all are being exposed, so much so that you decided, here what? The only way we could neutralize this man is to threaten to pull the program. I don't know if they still run the Monday Night Forum on that station. But the fact that almost a year later, the owner of the station is still talking about it and trying to defend your actions speaks volumes for me. I tell you something, he will never have a third opportunity to do that. They could call me and offer me $1 million to come back on that radio station. I will not do it. Absolutely would not do it. I say it publicly here. So if anybody has any inclination towards that, let them know. Do not call me. Right? I am not interested at all. At all. So when they want to attack Juliet and so on, what do I do? I will use this platform and other platforms that will present itself in the not too distant future to expose these liars, to ensure that they never get back into office in 2025. Because right now they're licking their chops, waiting, they can't wait to get back inside so they could finish raid the treasury. When you see things like NGC posting profits of $2.38 billion, they salivating. Man, oh God, if we was there, boy, we would have liked ourselves. We would have liked ourselves. Since this administration came in, you see them use NGC to do things that NGC is not supposed to be doing, not supposed to be involved in. You see this government use NGC money to build any wastewater treatment plant. Things like that. They had NGC, using NGC to pave road and all kind of thing, NGC to fund this and fund that. This administration has done that? No. NGC under them moved away from its moorings in a significant way. And they were using the coffers of NGC to prop up their friends, family and financiers, to give out contracts under the guise of laying pipe and all kind of thing. And that was not NGC business. That is WASA's responsibility. Why was NGC funding a wastewater treatment plant? Why? And the very same people who supported them weren't questioning that then. They weren't questioning that, right? But they're so disingenuous. I saw a couple days ago, an article came out about, because I saw this, they're sharing it, some memorandum of understanding that was signed between the government of Guyana and the government of India with respect to them collaborating on the energy sector in Guyana, where the government of India wants to purchase oil and gas from Guyana, and they want to assist Guyana with the development of their energy infrastructure and all of that, right? A memorandum of understanding, which they've been working on for the past 2 years. Well, boy, they're sharing that like wildfire. And when you read the comments here, tell Rowley, you see, look what's happening in India thing and watch out. Guyana doing thing with India, and they want nothing to do with Trinidad, and they want nothing to do with the PNM, all kind of thing. Yeah, Rowley and them will be bleeding from the horns. They're happy to share that. Share that. Share. But you know what they wouldn't share? Dragon gas, 30-year lease. So apparently for them, Ghana and India entering into a 5-year memorandum of understanding. They didn't sign no lease because in any event, all the oil that Ghana is producing now, that is ExxonMobil oil. So if India want to come into the thing, India had to come now and drill and find oil and whatnot as the case may be. So when they have the next bid round and so on, they will get involved and all of these different things. So this is a memorandum of understanding, that this is how we will proceed into discussions and negotiations and whatever as the case may be. They ain't even reach close to what we have with Venezuela, but they ain't sharing that. They're not sharing the dragon gas, but they want to share 5-year memorandum of understanding between India and Ghana to use that to say, you see, watch Rowley, as if. But Rowley is not bothered by that. Is not bothered. Anything for a distraction. Anything for a distraction, to distract from the good news, the good things that are happening. So you see, they cannot come in 2025 and talk about the government only paving road because imagine, we are the start of 2024. Election is a whole year and a half at least away. And these idiots on that side of the political divide, seeing road paving taking place, the expansion of the highway with lanes and talking about, the election close. Thank God for elections. Since last year, the start of last year, the government has been paving roads and all of that. 2.5 years before a general election. But you see, when they can't deal with what is happening, they can't handle it. Because come 2025, they can't talk that stupidness with any degree of sense or substance to say it's only because election in the year that the government paving. Paving has been ongoing since the start of last year. So miss us with that BS and that stupid talk, right? And again, as money presents itself, government is doing what it is that they're supposed to do. And I keep making the point. I'll give you an example. Private Trinidad and Tobago has a role to play in the development. And I keep saying, you have all of these contractors who get in billions of dollars in contracts every year to pave road, to build a road and whatnot. And not one of them would say, you know what, we'll pave a few roads for free. Even if it's minor roads, are not that long and whatnot. We will, all these billions of dollars in contracts that we get in, we'll pave a few roads as good corporate citizens, recognizing that we live here. We use the same roads. And when it is the road bad and pothole and so on, it affects us, it affects our vehicles. Yes, never mind the fact that we have a whole fleet of vehicles, so if one damage, we could sell it and we have others to drive. But still, you are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago first, and you could dip in your pocket with all the billions instead of taking the money to go and buy a private jet and buy a fleet of Range Rovers and all of these different things. Put some of that money, or even if you tell the government, here what, pay us for the material and we will provide the labor for free. to pave this road. That ain't happening. Never mind the fact that there's some of their very vehicles, the big truck and so on, and all the heavy equipment that damaging the roads. They wouldn't say, let us give back to the country in some small way. So in Chaguanas, Mulchans, not Mulchans, in the back by Medford flyover there, there's a by where Chan Hardwares and Das Funeral Home. That road, there are a couple side roads that are in a mess. One in particular is really, really terrible. I mean, and the hardware, Chan Hardware, they usually have the trucks park up on that road. I mean, the potholes in that road is like craters. Craters, terrible. Terrible, it's in a mess. I don't know why it is the Shogunas Borough Corporation wouldn't pave that road. And now, so the road is in a mess, and Guardian Group has a building, has an office, offices on that stretch, and they have decided that they will pave the road because it's really in a mess and the staff complaining. So they have sent out, put out for quotations and tenders and so on, and they have decided they will put their money where the mouth is and they will pave the road. Since the Shogunas Borough Corporation, who receives money from the state, refuses to do it, a private sector company has said, you know what, our staff, our people are being negatively impacted by it, so we will dip into our coffers and we will pave the road. Where is the rest of corporate Trinidad and Tobago to do similar? But you know, when that happens, you will have people who will come and say, but them stupid, that the government work. The government's supposed to do that. Watch the private sector, private citizens have to be coming out to pave road. That is, they have an issue. There are those who will have an issue because I've seen it before. When it is that these Shogunas businessmen, I think the other road by Fair and Square there, when they decided that they would come together, some of the businesses in the area come together, and I think they put out about $18,000 or so to buy material, and the Shogunas Borough Corporation provided the labor to pave. And you had citizens complaining about that why it is private citizens had to be dipping in the pocket to pave the road, like government and government. At the end of the day, the road was paved. These people are citizens of this country. They could give back. It's not only to write check for $100,000, $500,000, $1 million to give to your political party when an election comes around. That money, but all they don't know about how money could be better spent. It's better spent in all the coffers than paving the roads. The same roads that all they keep complaining about that damaging your car. And every Monday morning, you have to be going by the mechanic to change this and change that and change shock and suspension and all of that. And this is what I am saying. We have people in the country, the same 1% that are always cussing and whatnot and stuff, right? So we're not putting out their own money to pave the road. Well, but you know when it finish, you go see Faik, the mayor of Shogunas, you go see him come in, yeah? Come in with camera and come in to cut ribbon and all kind of foolishness. But this is the alternative to the PNM. Understand, people, this is a significant year politics-wise. See this here? Anyway, we know there's a lot to take place, perspective of the government, and expect to see the UNC attacks heightened over the course of the next few months, because as the government continues to do more and more things happen that is beneficial to the country. The same stunt that they pulled over the last couple of days, well, I'm waiting to see what they're going to do today with respect to Mr. Panday's funeral. I read something which said that no politician would be allowed to speak at the funeral. They said Michaela would do the eulogy, and I think the only former politician who will speak would be John Humphrey. But otherwise to that, and I think the president is also carded to speak. So Michaela is not prepared to have her father's funeral turn into a papi show, any opportunity for politicians for self-aggrandizement, but especially not the UNC. So all of them who are trying to milk her father's passing, well, we will see how they will treat with that in the coming days and whether they are going to try to embrace Michaela. I understand Mrs. Pasabisasa said she has tried to reach out to Michaela by sending her messages, WhatsApp calls, and Michaela not taking her on. Well done, Michaela. Well done. They didn't want to talk to you when your father was alive. Forget about them now. If I read the WhatsApp, call that judge. Or just say thanks. Don't bother to entertain them and their foolishness. And don't let them use you as no pawn to try and score political points. 7701763. Folks on Facebook, my apologies this morning. The device that I use for Facebook Just not cooperating today. I don't know why. So, yeah. I don't know why. Sarah Richard says since 6:30 a.m. they passed down the San Fernando bypass with Mr. Panday. Yeah, I think the funeral is early. This cremation is supposed to take place at 11:30 or so. So no such a long speech and all them kind of thing that they're accustomed to. And 5 and 6 hour funeral. I think Churchill's funeral is about 6 hours. 6 hours. So Jen, give me 1 sec there. Let me just turn on this thing. Right. Jenny, morning.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Morning to all those and not pleased to access something. Dominic, you mentioned something about a dumb individual, right?
Yes.
I want to say, I think that guy really believes when he speak about dollar for dollar. And because Mr. Panday, rest his soul, would have made access, for tertiary education or dollar for dollar. He say everybody was able to study. No, black people was able to study. I think he really believed if he had one single red dollar, that Panday and government at the time would match it with one red dollar. I think that's what he really believed. I don't think he understood. It meant if the program was $100,000, you had to come up with 50,000. And then the Panday government had put 50,000 with it. Because had he understood that, he would have known when the PNM came in with Mr. Manning, that it was actually everybody could have gone and studied now, because all you had to have was your registration money. And the government, the PNM government was paying the whole program. Whether it's 100,000, 50,000, 60,000, that is 1, 2. I had to listen to that dumb individual talk about Mr. Panday was so good because he brought in foreign use car and black people was able to drive car. First of all, since I go into school and I'm in my 50s, black people driving car and it wasn't foreign use car. Hillman and all them cars you used to know about. I want to.
Yes.
This fella so happy that the UNC was able to bring in old car from Japan that was to be for scraps and was sold for $300 US and bring it in this country and sell it for $1,000. And who got rich off it? It wasn't black people. So Mr. Panday didn't do us any favor. In fact, what happened when you buy them old car we coming from Japan, as you drive out, it's more depreciated and more mash up. Now you have to get a mechanic and thing every minute you have to fix. That is 2. People need to understand the type of individual that I think Mr. Panday was, because he went to Mr. Kevin Ramnath's funeral and would have said there, all them who talking all this good thing about Kevin Ramnath now, he dead. All of them like the man, that's basically what he said, and talk the truth. So based on that, I saying, he will have a problem if we talking the truth, because Mr. Panday had a political side of him, and he had his private life. And we're talking about the political person, Mr. Basil Panday. And it wasn't easy. It was the good, the bad, and the evil. And if we're talking about the bad, nobody should have a problem to say, oh, let the man rest in peace. I think it's Kamala and them should let the man rest in peace because they're lying on the man. Imagine Wade Max saying, I understand, that under Mr. Panday, he raised the ceiling for senior citizen pension to $7,000. How that could make any damn sense when on that Canada Services and the PP government from 2010 to 15 was $4,500. And under this president government is $5,500. So how the year Mr. Panday was in office 1995 to 2000, I think, and 1, it could be $7,000. Imagine I hear next one saying, I showed that why he said, that the UNC Mr. Panday formed as a national party because he launched it in the national stadium. How the hell that could make any damn sense because the word national make you national?
Yes.
And the lies continue. So that is why, Dominic, you telling the truth, because all you're doing is finding and getting the information, not something you making up, The evidence is there. And you're bringing the evidence based on what you research and telling the people this is it here. You have a choice. They're talking about Miss Davy. Who best could talk about the UNC than Miss Davy? Since Miss Davy is a young girl, Miss Davy walking up and down with Mr. Panday in that time period and run the whole thing. Imagine the abuse she must used to get from people, especially coming from Beacon. She used to be riding with Mr. Panday. So if anybody has the authority to talk about Mr. Panday politically, it's Miss Julia Davy. You ever hear Munila and them challenge Miss Davy when she talk? You ever hear Kamala Prasad, the Cesar, Ramba Chan, any one of them from the UNC, them senior men and them, you ever hear them challenge Miss Julia Davy? You know why they don't challenge her? Because they know she was there and she know. So you see when that dumb and listen, them can be two persons. Because two people can be chopped. So there might be 5 and 6 people, multiple personality. And that idiot who has called himself the sobriquet Professor Walsh, because I know he no professor. Then you bring money, you like to challenge people with money.
Yes. Yeah.
Bring money and challenge me when I say that is a volunteer, part-time track and field coach for State University in New Jersey. Bring money and tell me that that is a lie. That man started to go off and imagine you making your program and you bringing down, or they like to talk about black people. You're bringing down a black sister, Julia Davy, for what talking the truth. And a woman had to call in on your program who was a UNC counsel and let you know basically, you see what you're talking there? You're talking stupidness. Miss Davy knows what she's talking about. And all he cannot do is laugh. And I want to tell this Uncle Tom who's saying, like, yes, yeah, Mr. Value yourself more than him. Wall Street, how you looking like a real jackass saying no next to him. Because all you doing is, yeah. And then he tell you, hey, Tommy, come now, value yourself more now. And finally, before I go, this year is a very crucial day. We have never heard under the UNC what NGC means. This government has been very transparent. They continue to tell you about the money that this country is making from all the oil deals. And I tell only something, if all you want to go out all your thoughts, and bring back the UNC in this country with all the money this country is making now and is being used for the citizens of this country. Let me tell you something. We train, and all them train after go have to pay for the mess the country in. Because all UNC want to do is go back and spend the money again. You only remember what they do with NGC? It was hot dog and roti for $200 and money spending here, money spending there. And before I go, the one of the own who was in government with them from the NJAC, he come and tell me, deceased McCandle Daga, they thief money from the treasury as if they had a right to thief it, as if they invented. That is what happens. So let's take all that. I don't like Rowley, I don't like the TNM, and put back UNC, and all of we are supposed to suffer in this country. Again, rest in peace, Mr. Panday, but Kamala never tell let the man rest in peace, because only lying on the man. Or let's talk the truth. We talking the truth, and I know you'll be happy about that. Rest in peace, Mr. Panday, and condolences to the Panday family. And I hope today go really well and nobody make an ASS at itself in man funeral for political aggrandizement. I'm talking about the UNC because they're out of timing and there's lie bad. I go on to make about this.
Thank you, Jen. Well said. Well said. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
How are you today?
I am good, man.
Well, boy, I'm watching on YouTube, but I don't know what's going on with Facebook.
Yeah, my Facebook device giving a lot of stress this morning.
Yeah. Well, you're very popular right now. I see somebody say they want to report you to people.
Uh-huh.
Pass on a place.
Oh,
But I want to congratulate Ms. Jen for making a beautiful contribution. Dominic, you have to forget that, let me say, forgive the TC. Because it was the purpose. They didn't have no idea what type was on a path in 2001. You have to forgive them. They was probably babies. But to say that Panday give up used cars, like people seem to forget that these things are considered garbage in Japan.
Yeah.
And they dumping it. As a matter of fact, there are certain countries who ban those used cars from entering the country. I remember some years ago there was issues with used tires. Certain countries banned that.
Yeah.
But who was making the money? It wasn't people like you and me. As a matter of fact, they squatted in a certain area.
Yes.
And a certain businessman benefited out of that business. That is the reason why they didn't want the Panday administration to build the rapid railway. That is one of the reasons why we don't have a train system. Because people was making money already used cars.
Yeah.
Or the garbage. And because of that domino effect, we had the scrap iron dealers and the so-called used parts mechanics. Right? And what Mr. Jennifer said about the dollars per dollar true too.
Yes.
If a tuition fee costs $30,000 or $60,000, the government will pay $30,000, but your family had to find the other $30,000 or you have China going to college. Where they going to get that money from? And it is one of the factors when Mr. Panday was the president, he had it was an open secret that he had a technology center open for the children of sugarcane workers. And when Mr. Panday found out about that it was when he was inside open UTT.
Yes.
It was an open secret. But I want to tell certain PNM people and certain PNM people, please do not try to woo Makila Panday to be PNM, please. As far as I am concerned, there's still UNC Panday and my father cut from the same cloth as UNC. And from the day one, Panday have always advocated for the constitutional reform. They do not like the first past the post system. They want a system similar to what is going on in Guyana.
Right.
Or should I say proportional representation. And see what problem that causes in Guyana now.
Yep.
and also that same proportional representation causing problems in Israel too.
Yes.
You know why? Because internally, the government that is running Israel, the far right faction is causing that genocide. So the progressive group within that government of Israel, they have to stay quiet. You understand? Correct?
Yep.
So let certain people say that they want Makila to join PNM, they have that thing place. Right? And I want to talk about naming the PIACO after Panday, and our next foolish stuff. But don't find any comment days. You're going to hear overture from Camp. Because she thing on like her and other brothers are in the courtiers of the dead back to Panday. For everybody to come home and unite. There's some foolish talk about what a Panday to represent Cuba. So what happened? Is she going to get rid of that after?
That ain't happening.
Don't make it a good day.
You too, sir.
Continue good work. And I hope you get a TV program. But I see that's the engineer calling back. So maybe I'll go to the next station. Okay, good luck.
Thank you. So it is now 8:20. Yeah, apologies again to the folks on. I saw some people mentioning YouTube. Yes, as I said, my YouTube device was giving me some trouble. No, not YouTube, sorry. Facebook device was giving me some trouble this morning. So unfortunately, to the Facebook viewers, you may have to catch it on YouTube. But I should have that situation sorted out for the next show. Joycelyn White says, I don't think they can. I'm sure there is preparation for them fools. Deisha saying, after Dominic left, I started listening to Juliet, and I also stopped listening to Aisha because I could not take on the PS. I don't know if it is the management of that station is deliberately recruiting persons to annoy and aggravate the very same PNM listenership that built that radio station, such that now you have so many programs in which they always maligning PNM supporters, calling them sycophants and they do tish and all kind of nonsense. Because I heard a guy calling Wall Street and they last night, and again talking this nonsense about the government not doing anything for poor people after 9 years, what you have to show for it. But you live in Florida, sir. You live in Florida, but want to call a program to talk about after 9 years, this government has nothing to show for being in government for so long. What do you know? What do you know other than the nonsense that you're hearing from those two clowns on an afternoon? You know nothing else but quick to buy into that and Wall Street's foolishness, who also does not live here, who for the majority or the entirety of his working life never contributed a dime, not a penny near a farthing in taxes to Trinidad and Tobago, but want to come and give the government of Trinidad and Tobago advice on how they should run the country. Tell that to Joe Biden. Tell that to Joe Biden. Don't come here to tell our Prime Minister and our government how they should run things and what you think they should do. You want to talk about the crime situation in our country, but yet still you live in a country where you could walk out the door and don't even have to walk out the door and you could get killed. You go to church, you could get killed. You go to the grocery, you could get killed. You go to a cinema, you could get killed. You go to the mall, right? You have people just come in, mass shootings, innocent bystander. But he wouldn't talk about that. Never will you hear that clown talk about the things that are happening in the country that he has called home for the majority of his life. So he's more American than he's Trini. But talking last night, he's a true Makakian and all kind of always making up a set of chopping words. Look, Jenny.
Yeah, Dominic, I just had a call back. Nobody know that man in Chumakat. Even like to talk about he voted for Pedro and he stayed here when he's 17 years old. Back in there when he left Trinidad, the voting age was 21 years old. So he voted, and even if it was 18, you leave at 17, you never vote here. You never contributed taxes here. I want him to focus on New Jersey where he lives. And on a Saturdays and the days when all them food banks giving food because people in New Jersey can't feed themselves. I want him to go and help distribute food because there's a long lines. Could have be cussing because they're waiting long and all that. I want them to go in the poorest town in New Jersey. I can't remember the name right now. Where people are suffering and go and help them there in New Jersey. I want them also to go in Canada where people can't pay the bills. They're struggling to pay the bills. And do a live on them and talk about how they're suffering and why they can't pay the bills. I want going to England where people are struggling to buy food and pay the bills when the month comes, and ask them why they can't pay the bills, and ask them if they're suffering, if there's nothing to eat, and if the government of England doing enough for them. And I want them right in New York, and I'm in New Jersey where you live in, and America, and find out in New Jersey why the people can't pay the bills, why they're unemployed. Go under Skid Row, ask them why they're there, if the government is helping them. Ask the homeless who's sleeping in the cars in America why it is they're sleeping in the cars, why they can't go to school, why they're burdened by student loans, why they're burdened by health care, why they can't get free health care in America because it's not universal like Trinidad. I want them to focus on the country he dedicated all his life. Wall Street, answer him about. If you're listening, I wanted to answer Jennifer Frederick. None of PSA hater. I'm sending out this to you. Answer him about. Answer why you're not helping the people in New Jersey and helping those who poor and suffering and hungry in America. Why you ain't go by Joe Biden and ask them why they didn't stop the mass shootings in schools and all the killings that have? Why you don't go to the police station and ask them that when they're using stand your ground is white people killing African people innocently in America? Ask them why they're doing that. Go fix America, New Jersey, South Orange, where you're living wrong there. Stop studying Chumakak. The people at Chumakak will make it, and they have been making it. the citizen of Trinidad and Tobago has made it and will continue to make it. I asking you, Auntie Nabo, come and talk to me. Until they could do that with your 12 people and your 22 people, when you have your life, although you have radio station and all that, you can't even gather 50 people. Come and talk to Dominic Romaine. Come and talk to Julia Davy. Come and talk to Pastor Google. Come and talk to all of we. Until they could do that, watch me a rock somebody. You waste of time. And you know, damn professor, that is a sobriquet of God.
Thank you, Jen. So while they're saying government ain't doing nothing for poor people and the government ain't doing nothing, and I just saw something here on Facebook, the MyLat, you know the MyLat, My Part program. MyLat graduate of intake 1501 is pursuing his entrepreneurial dream. Mr. Bailey and his associate opened their bakery shop today, a testament to the transformative nature of the MyLat program. So here it is, we have a graduate of the MyLat program, which is this administration is seeking to expand to now include women. And I'm seeing a picture here of this young man and his associate. He's a graduate and he has just opened a bakery. Another entrepreneur. While this administration is saying, what they're saying? 1,000 entrepreneurs by 2025. One entrepreneur in every home. That is now the mantra of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. That by 2025 and beyond, we're working towards one entrepreneur in every home. They recognize that in almost every home you have somebody who has the capacity or the wherewithal to be an entrepreneur, probably have a business idea and they just need support, whether it's financial, technical, and otherwise. And the ministry and the government is putting things in place to seek out and find these people and to give them the opportunity. And this is one example of this young man who's a graduate of MyLat, Mr. Bailey, who just opened his bakery. So he ain't working for nobody, working for himself. He writing his own paycheck at the end of the month, right? However often he will pay himself. And when things improve and get better. So this is one less young man who you will read about in the newspapers. The police find him in some bushes on a pavement somewhere with his body riddled with bullets. Right? Thanks to who? Because this government is expanding opportunities for the young people, 18 to 35, telling them, come, we have opportunities for you. You know what they can say to this young man? Oh, we have a fund set aside. We set up soon. You could get access to funding from the state that you don't have to pay back to expand your bakery. So it don't just have to be one branch that you have. You could open one somewhere else. And we will help you with that. We will assist you. You need to buy machinery, whatever it is, for to knead the flour, or for you need an oven, whatever it is, come. And we will help you. We're providing you with the technical support that you need. You want to sell your stuff, market it wherever, we will help you. Here's what this administration, but you have people like Uncle Tommy, very good, and drop off the E, Uncle Tom, and Wall Street, coming in to talk a pack of nonsense and to tell you the government, 9 years, the government do nothing, and they ain't care about poor people. They call you miss me with that nonsense, yes? Miss me with that. Brian, morning.
Nick Romaine.
Morning, sir.
Morning to your listeners and callers. Dominic, I want to tell False Teeth. Not only come and explain yourself to Jenny and others like yourself, but send some clothes for Dumb and Dumber. Because them old jersey they putting on every day. Between 4 and 7, looking good. So while they might be driving a car today because of a bus, you forget to buy clothes for yourself to look a little decent, to present yourself in a particular way. So False Teeth, send some clothes, some decent clothes for your brethren and them now, please. Let them look a little decent on the in front of the camera. Right? Send some clothes for them because like them old jersey they putting on there, like either they ain't buying iron clothes or something else wrong. Like they either buy tires or some kind of something so they can't afford to buy clothes. So send some clothes for them now, False Teeth. Clothes cheap up there. Especially now that it's winter time. Send some clothes for the boys and them now. Thanks. Ain't doing nothing else, so you might as well do that. And when he go, one of my good friend, I heard him, saying that apparently somebody write up to get you off of Facebook.
Yes.
Don't worry with that, man. You see, Dominic, right now as we speak, I was looking at my television, my other television. UNC3 will have people giving color comments. You know who? Hamid Ghani and Indira Rampasad to give color comments. And then you have the next fella interviewing young people of a certain ilk about the good things that Bastio Panday did. The sanitization of Bastio Panday continues from last night on TV6 after the 8 o'clock news. It will continue today again. You understand? And it will continue on and on and on. Because the UNC, Kamala ain't getting a foothold into shaking Michaela hand or hugging up Michaela. She ain't got a foothold yet. Because Michaela keeping her at bay. Understand? So, this is the last throw of the dice before the cremation. And if you don't get through with this well, you got to try something else as the days and weeks go along. But if people never understood what we have been trying to say about the treatment meted out to Bastio Panday by the Kamla Prasad Bissessa, who has nothing to offer or say for all of these years, well, Michaela Panday is saying it and endorsing what we have all been trying to say. Understand? That he's making sure that they say nothing to any invitation from the Pandays. Always stay there. Right? Government, as I think Minister Avery Brown has done a fantastic job. I looked at him very, very closely yesterday. And I also looked at when Lady Jewel Brown, went to visit the while he laid in state yesterday, and she was escorted to the casket by Michaela Panday. You understand? I looked at that, and I know the UNC saw that, because it was mentioned by the commentator. You understand? And that hurt them too. But that's okay. They will never understand. And many of them, others who are not looking on, will turn a blind eye. And they will never understand. But you see, Dominic, with respect to the India-Guyana issue, Trinidad and Tobago, through Paula Gubin School, is doing a lot of work with India. Not now. There are a lot of agreements have been signed. A lot of trade exchanges have been going on. But you see, those things not going to make the news. And if they do, it's just a soundbite for one night and that's it. But a lot of things have been going on, a lot of trade has been going on and is expanding between Trinidad and Tobago and India through Paula Gopi School. It is there for all to see. But you see, they're not going to highlight that. What they're highlighting is this racist rant that they continue and this biasness that they want to perpetrate for certain people to see. It's always about them and we. It's not about us. And that is what people have to begin to understand. And then they have some young African, I say young African fools who continue to endorse that stupidity. You understand? I think it is something so great. That's something so good. Dominic, I have called long before Bastio Panday got into power. Long before there was new cars. What I know, a young man now coming out and starting, I wanted a little car to drive. So there was always cars, whether it was second-hand cars or foreign used cars, for young black people to purchase. Yes? We didn't have to wait for Bastio Panday to purchase a vehicle. You just have to use you were working, you use your common sense, you save your money, and you go to the bank, you take a loan and you purchase a vehicle. What is the difference today? And in those days when Panday was organizing, it wasn't roll on, roll off, you know. Those cars came disassembled, and that was the angst that they decided that PNM decided to say, listen, bring it as a roll on, roll off, not don't bring it in pieces.
Right.
Because there was a danger to society. That is what Panday was doing, bringing it in pieces and assembling it in Trinidad. And the PNM stopped that. So to come and say that, oh, Panday was the origin. Everything is originator and originator and originator. But I know every time I leave South and I come into Port Espin and I see those tall buildings on the left-hand side there by Hyatt Regency. I know who built it. I know. So let me call it Manning Towers now. How come nobody made that recommendation?
Thank you.
How come? Tell me. Why did they make recommendations for the government plaza to be called Manning Government Plaza? How come nobody made those recommendations? For 5 years, that government plaza stood there under UNC, under the partnership, and nothing was done until the final months when they looked into to outfit it. It stood there. Why didn't they make recommendations and say, okay, let us do that for Patrick Manning? But no, nothing for he. And that is why Juliet Davy and Mr. Ruka saying, Pastor Panday, nothing. You understand? But they want to give airport. Kamona want to give him ORTT. Kamona, the fellow who get him out of jail. Right? He was a judge. And now he was rewarded in 2010, 2015. You understand? That is how it works in the UNC. That is where the dollar for dollar coming. I give you something, you give me something. That is what dollar for dollar really mean with them. I'll give you something, but you have to give me something back. If I give you something, you have to give me something. I can't give you, according to Manu, turn around and don't look for nothing. No. I have to get something for you. For me to give you something. That is what dollar for dollar really, really meant. You understand? If you don't have a dollar in your pocket, too bad for you. And this is how it continued under Bastio Panday. And for all that they're talking about, what is the benefits to the people of Trinidad and Tobago? What's the real benefit? Yes, I agree. The freedom of information, that was something very, very good. You have to admit that. That was innovative and that was very, very good. But that is also in the United States, so you would have garnered that from the United States as well. A lot of the things that were brought into Trinidad and Tobago originated from some other country. But you see, people don't do the research to find out. But you hear something and say, oh, yeah, boy, hey, what am I do, boy? Yeah, that was innovative, eh? But when you check around the world, you say, wow, how long these things going on. But it comes to Trinidad and Tobago, and a man say, hey, that's real good, boy. But it is what it is, Dominic. And I'm watching the shenanigans that are going on right now, live on our television. Because one man has passed, and they call his name more times in 1 week than in almost 20 years, the UNC. 20 years. They couldn't call his name. They didn't want to hear about him. They didn't want to hear about Michaela. Why she went and she formed the Patriotic Front. They didn't want to hear about Subash. That we had to go and open a law office in Princestown. They didn't want to hear the bloody Pandays. But today, Kamla could write and say, you know, all because she getting blank and making lame excuses. I want to say she wants to change. She wants to rewrite history. That is the PNM that hound them out of office. When there's video evidence contrary to that. And that will be even exposed more by Pastor Google on Wednesday. Understand? But that is the kind of people we have to live with. And people, even though that will be exposed for everybody to see and hear, they will still not believe. Because you know why? They have been trained not to do so. That is PNM propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And that is how it is in Trinidad and Tobago. But we have work to do, and we will do it. We will not be stopped. We will not be hindered. We must keep these. Look at that, $2.38 billion. Imagine NGC workers beginning to get back the little something for Christmas every year now. Imagine that. The UNC lit that up, $14 to $16 billion. We're still paying back that overdraft on the exchequer. That's taking its time to come down. I always tell people, it's easy to build up, but you see to take it to bring it back down, therein lies the problem. But it is what it is. We will do what we have to do, Dominic Rubin.
Yes.
Together with Jenny and everybody else. We will do what we have to do. We will do as we must. All of you callers and listeners, Happy New Year to you all. And Dominic, all the best. Be safe. And judge well.
Thank you, sir.
Carnival.
Yes.
Take care, my brother.
You too. Point of note, 2.38 billion in profit NGC, and that is without dragon gas. That is without dragon gas. So imagine when dragon gas come, the kind of profits that NGC will make. And if it is you all have the wrong people in government, well, that Beatam wastewater treatment plant will be a joke compared to the things that they will find to spend that money on so that their friends, family, and financiers could eat a food, drink a juice. Yeah. So understand, when all the work, the groundwork is being laid by this administration, and then you all come and put God out to your collective thoughts to allow them to come back, whether it is you choose not to vote. Not that you vote for them. If you choose not to vote because you're vexed or something that you didn't get, or whatever it is, or as the case may be, and they sneak in, just remember, 2.38 billion without Dragon. And with Dragon gas money expected to start coming from 2026, 2027, thereabouts. Whoever is in government at that time, they love to talk about build school. That's all they know to do is to build school and build hospital, accommodate more sick people, right? So these are the things we need to be wary of. And this Tanku guy who wanted to talk about the Prime Minister disrespecting Panday's legacy because the Prime Minister criticized the Integrity Commission. It's the same Integrity Commission that Panday criticized. It was that same Integrity Commission that caused Panday to catch a case. The same Integrity Commission to which he failed to disclose the London bank account and the apartment. It's that same Integrity Commission. So when Panday was blasting them, that for having him catch a case and end up making a jail, he wasn't disrespecting his own legacy. But Dr. Rowley come now to make a complaint on the same Integrity Commission because of the waste of time investigations that they pursuing based on nonsense that's in the public domain. And that is a disrespect. Well, Tanku need to go this morning and tell Panday Nico of May, you see when it is you were attacking the Integrity Commission, you were disrespecting your own legacy because it's the same thing. Idiot. Hello, morning.
Morning, Dominic. Dominic, I had a call back again.
Yes, sir.
To those people who want to verify and attack Julia Davy, I want people to remember that Julia Davy was in the belly of the beast of the UNC for over 20 years. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think she was the one that was approached to be a counselor in one of the Portsmouth City corporations. And probably at one time, I think she was a candidate for the Port of Spain South seat. That'll tell you how deep she was in the UNC. And I could probably safely say that she had more on that cabinet processor. Because I think Julia David joined the party before Kamala joined the UNC in around 1994, 1995.
Okay.
So, hello?
Yes, listening to you, caller.
Okay, right. I remember in the days of Gladiator, and she used to come and look ahead on the radio. She fighting hard for the UNC. So who is to say that she shall know how to talk about the UNC? She have every right to talk about UNC.
Yes.
Because she was in the belly of the beast. And Tama have no right to deal with Michaela because, from my understanding, she lived at a distance away from the Panday residence. Hello?
Yes, sir.
I think it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes to drive.
Right.
And she hasn't been in contact with Panday for a while. Until now. Dominic, you have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
How are you doing?
I am good, and yourself?
I listened to this conversation this morning. I hear your conversation. And I remember hearing this foolish man, the excerpt that you played, talking as foolish about Basel, Panday, and what you did before.
Yeah.
He mentioned one thing that I sure is wrong. My wife was a teacher, and she went UE, and she did a course in education, a degree in education. Right? It cost her $6,000. Right? Her friend at the time, both of them were supposed to go.
Right.
But the friend ran into some issues, and she couldn't go on. She couldn't come. So my wife went ahead and did the course. Her friend joined the course the following year. That is when Basel Panday introduced dollar for dollar. And I am telling everybody who was willing to listen, the price went up from $6,000 to $12,000.
Wow.
You understand? So really and truly, this dollar for dollar was a fake. It was not for real because my wife paid $6. That was the original price of the course.
Right.
And when the dollar for dollar came up, it changed from 6 to 12. Wow. So you still had to bring your 6.
Yeah.
And that is what they call, and they say in 12, but it was not so. And her friend was telling, she said, but it's only because circumstances. Some issues she had it from her family issues. And she couldn't raise the money at the time.
Right.
And she said, if I do the course with you, I'd save $6,000. My wife paid 6 because they didn't have no dollar for dollar then. Right? And then eventually, my biggest son, when he was time for him to go to UE, right, he wanted to do medicine. And both Tiwari and them kissed him all, wrong. Came all kind of reason and tell him if he don't want to be out there.
Wow.
He said, but I don't want to see about no dog, I want to see about people. And they eventually frustrated him to the point where Patrick Manning eventually opened UTT. And his second choice of career was petroleum engineering. And he went UT and did. But before he did that, he started to get a little upset and he started to send his resume, his things out to these foreign universities. But he did SAT. I think he had gotten about 1,400 in SAT.
Right. And
it was so late that he got a response from Howard University. And they told him because of his late application, they could only offer him a half scholarship. Right? And he never really was interested in studying in states because he like cold weather and all kind of different reasons. That same time, Patrick Manning opened the UTT.
Right.
And he went and he got gate. My daughter came after, she got gate. And right now I have my last son in the same gate.
Wow.
So when people talk in this deep nonsense or education of Panday, they didn't give anybody anything. That dollar for dollar was a fraud. I am sure about that. I know what I am saying because I saw it myself. Right? And they're telling you but pay a dollar and they put a dollar. You pay the full price, but they're making you feel it was more.
Wow.
Right? So when Heavy and all them sort of nonsense fellas who were thinking and even now talking the foolishness that they're talking, only to realize and speaking statements without verification,
Correct.
There have many things that you said from that clip that you said this morning, that you played this morning. I could debunk most of them, but I had time with he making no sense. But this dollar for dollar issue, that was never real. That was that assurable, right? So don't worry them on the stupid talk about this dollar for dollar of Panday. It had nothing better than it. Nothing. It's just that it get abused during the time at the UNC because every little body who was at 2 or 3 level open some school for offering gate.
Yes.
And people was abusing the gate. That is why when Dr. Rowley come in, he had to stop the gate and restructure it.
Yes.
Right? Because they was abusing it. I know a fellow was just jumping from course to course and he's a lineman. He ain't studying nothing. He just lineman and when you realize you fail a course, he jump in the next one. So you keep going.
Right.
Because it's free. You understand? They were abusing it and had a lot of that. And this set of fly-by-night schools that was opening all about and collecting gate from the government. And when they're done, you're not accredited and you can't get a job with the qualification. You have all kind of different things. But people don't know these things and they're only talking after nonsense. But that fella in particular, who say you educate and inform, he needs to be educated and informed. Because there are a lot of things that he don't know and he just say it with authority. And I just wonder where he did get information from. But I'm sorry for the fella. I'm really sorry for the brother. I really wish it could be different, but you can't help him. But if you're getting paid to do what you're doing, you can't vex it.
Correct.
You understand? So you just have to continue. This roll on. If there was roll on, roll off, the problem was that Patrick Manning had it. The cars had to be a certain age. He didn't want to start derelict or dumping our vehicles down in this part of the country, in this part of the world. So they were allowing a certain standard of vehicles to come in.
Right.
When Panday came in, they just whoever come 6 years old, 8 years old, wherever. Till they reach the part so far, they start to bring them knocked down. All kind of parts of this one and bring down it in parts and container and put it together. And when they are cash, the car go in 3 different directions. All of those things was happening. I ain't saying that it's still happening.
Yes.
But that is what prevalent in those times. Bringing down cars on motorbike, chassis numbers and all kind of racket these people run. You understand? Because, and then they will make it sound as though, Panday do so much with it. What? But anyhow, if he was able to buy a foreign used car, so probably that will make him happy. Anyway, Dom, have a good day and take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Indeed, well said. Well said. You get to buy a car, and therefore Mr. Panday did so much for black people. Yeah, and everything is always about black people. So the East Indian community didn't benefit. Look, Jenny.
Dominic, I call him back again. 3 for 1. Dr. Vishnu Bishram, if you want to have any doubt about when Indians are in office or in politics, Dr. Vishnu Bishram from Guyana, hear what he say. I think he's a pollster too. He said Indians have economic power, but they don't have political power. I'm paraphrasing. He said the reason why, because when they are in government, it's not about making good legislation. It's about kickback from contract, hiring friends and family, cocktail party, eating, drinking. That is what it is about when they're in government. And you could see it from 2010 to 2015. And they say when your own tell you, you have to listen to your own. And Dr. Vishnu Bishram, he have a proud Indian ancestral name. And he telling people, because he's an academic, well respected, he's from Guyana. He said when Indians in office are saying it again for you to understand who listening, why it is very important not to allow the UNC, especially under the structure that it is, to get back into office. Because they see all that money from MGC, Dragon Deal, Manatee, all the contracts for Dr. Rowley and Mr. members, Stuart Young, had was to fly out to Hague and all over to renegotiate oil contract. With Kamala and them, get them big giant and them. They could drill for oil in this country, or gas, whatever, and they don't have to pay for nothing. If they get an empty well, there is no problem. She made the contract on them that they only had to get something from 2024. And when Dr. Rowley and the PNM come back into office, he fly out to them, all them giants and them, Mr. Stuart Young, and they renegotiated that. And we heard Minister Stuart Young said that in 2019, I think it was, they get back $6 billion from corporate taxes from them same contract and them that they renegotiated. If the UNC in office, based on what the academic Professor Vishnu Bishram say, they go take it out and contract and kickback. Flying high class all over the world. We see it with Kamala Prasad Sessa when they went with our whole crew to India and bring back nothing. We're going to see their friend and family enriched. We see it, a whole ministry was created with a man who was a judge today, become a UNC member the next day, and then he was the minister in Ministry of Justice. And the only thing that ministry was created for with taxpayers' money, because you had to get staff, you had to get building, you had to get equipment. The only thing them do was Section 34. And to free who? The financiers, Ish and Steve Galbaran say. And this UNC want to tell people in this country that the PNM hung Mr. Panday out of office. And this Piaco thing, they want to link him to it, not real. When Ish Galbaran Singh was the head of all the tourism development, an interministerial committee was set up under who? Not Mr. Panday. Francis Mongrou and Noel Garcia from NICDEC at the time tell Mr. Panday about the corruption was going on in the Piaco airport because they wanted to expedite it. It moved from 6.2 million to 1.6 billion. He knew it had corruption. He did nothing. When Jolene John came in, she went to him and he said, that's how it was reported, he knew it was a feeding frenzy and a milch cow. And it's only after he decided to disband the interministerial committee. Those things are written at me. So he didn't know it had corruption. So how come they want to tell me, because Mr. Panday has died, God rest his soul, that we mustn't talk about that too, that we implicated? Who ran Mr. Panday out of UNC and hung Mr. Panday out of UNC? Was it not Ramjaji, Ramesh, who again, Ralph, Jack, and who is the next one, Gypsy? Then Mr. Panday during the internal election, when they go to vote, Indian people run him and call him dog and tell him he ain't do nothing for the UNC. Is PNM do that? When Kamala stand up and say, basically, I put in my way, that by the Panday party time, he can't win nothing. And she's the one to carry the UNC into the future. Who it is hung Mr. Panday? When Mr. Panday wanted to reach out, in fact was reaching out, I had to talk to she never talked to him. When Michaela Panday was reaching out to talk to she never respond. Then she fired Subhash Panday, Mr. Panday's brother, and refused to choose Michaela to represent in the UNC. So who hung Mr. Panday out of office? Kamala Prasad Sessa watch all your own damn self. As you say, the Integrity Commission and nothing to do with the PNM. So when they're talking, they have to know history and know facts. So I was painting that picture for people who say, let me give them a chance. Let me tell you something. the money that they thief based on what deceased Makanda Daga said they thief from the treasury, when Jarala Ramahan said only had 3 days money in the treasury. And people don't understand that, you know. If you have a savings account and you only have money in it for 3 days, but you have money in a fixed deposit, and that is what he meant. It had money in the heritage and day and all over. But in the person to go and use, he said Jarala Ramahan, who they say was a family of, I think, Mr. Winston Dukaran, a junior man in the Ministry of Finance. They make the governor central bank over Terence Farrell, over, oh gosh, this non-doctor, I can't remember his name. Yeah? I painted this picture, it's important, you know. He said it had 3 days money. Guys, the extent, because Kamala and them was borrowing money from the deposit. That means straight from the treasury to finance project. Because you know why? You don't have to account. But if you take loan from IDA and IMF and whatever, there are stringent things that you have to do. Otherwise you can't get it. It has to be transparent. But they were borrowing straight from the treasury. And that is the kind of thing you'll expect to get. If the UNC is allowed to get back into office, they're going to spend out all the money. And they will get black people, not only for a news, you know, $69. Put your hand on your lip. When big security come, like if you can't go nowhere, and you go up in Hilton, hands in the air, put your hands on the $69. And we go eat our food. The crumbs from the food I'm eating, that we go eat. And black people go say, oh God, look what they do for we. They give we money. And while they give you 1,000, they're running away with millions. So that the children and the children ask Hafiz Karma about that. His children and grandchildren and children don't have to walk again in life. I painted this picture for all to see how serious it is that the UNC, especially how it is structured now, must never, ever be allowed to come back as the government of this country. And all the dumb and the dumber and the sobriquet man and all who talking the nonsense, I am telling you, they must be getting hundreds, not even thousands, not even millions. I am saying, in my opinion, to talk what they say. And when they finish, they're still poor. They're still hungry. And they still don't have nothing. Driving the used car. I have a blessed one, my God.
Thank you, Jen. Oh, Lord. Last one for this morning. Brian. Hello?
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Very quickly. About 7-8 minutes ago, I tell you, Dominic, this funeral, the bacchanal starts. Karen Nunes Teixeira and Hamid Smith got to give interview to Akash because they didn't get no invitation. That's a Clive fence. So the vex, because she say, what she say by Paris saw us and he passed us straight. I told you this PNM and you know, every bro saw us and he said he couldn't do anything to help us. And they called the office of the Prime Minister to get invitations and he couldn't help us. So the bacchanal start. So the car going in the main building apparently I ain't getting the real gist of it.
Right.
Because someone come and give you the headlines, so you'll be able to go and check it back when you know, a little later or something. But it just tell you, this is an opportunity for some of them, that hopeless team, amongst others. You understand? To try to benefit and hold on to the casket of Bastille Paniac, almost 20 years back. Where were they to support him? Let's forget all the issues with him for now. But where were they? But today they want to come and cry crocodile tears in the funeral. If you see how we sit to share out the vex, because she had to go and take second fiddle seat You understand?
Oh,
It just goes to, and they mightn't be the only one, but it goes to show you it's about the one pump, the one ceremony, all the money they have, all the millions, that is not good enough. I want to be in the big chair. I want to be amongst the big dogs. I want to be Miss Important. I want to be Mr. Important. I am the president of a new political party. And therefore, I was a former, and as Karen University said, this is a former president of the Senate. You understand what I'm trying to explain to you?
Yes.
So it's what I could get out of it. I want to be up there. I want to be noticed. No matter I have money and I have millions. I feel like you and me, Dominic, we go stay in the corner and stay quiet, but no, they want to be out in front. They want to be in front of the camera, not behind it. And that is what's going on right now, live on TV. So them vex. So them come to get interview live with Akash.
Oh, Lord.
And Akash will entertain. You understand? And this is what I keep telling Trinidad and Tobago. When they come with the smile and the hugs and the kisses, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about them. And all whatever they could get is lined up. And just imagine a funeral. This is she. She's looking falling, she's looking dry up, and she come in black. Let me show you. You understand? They're hungry for tickets. They want you dead. They want you to sleep good last night, calling all over Trinidad. Trying to even call Michaela to try and get, hey, give my invitation now. Oh, see? Okay, it's me, remember me? Oh, my Minister of Finance? Remember he Hamilton, he was a president of the Senate. Only give me invitation. Why? It will never surprise me, and I will just laugh. But go back and look at it, and you will see for yourself. Have a good day, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so that's the last call for today. Yeah, I'm just seeing here what Brian is talking about. Former PNM finance minister. No, don't associate her with the PNM. Don't associate her with the PNM at all. See what she is, deputy political leader of Hope. Former PNM finance minister Karen Nunes Teixeira jumps over the railing at Sapa, followed by former Senate President Timothy Hamel-Smith after flagging down Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Amory Brown, who was doing an interview. After saying she was not invited and asking for a parking spot, she parked on the Rienzi Curtin Highway and jumped over the railing, complaining that she was being ignored. This is the deputy political leader of Hope. This is the woman who, and the deputy political leader and the political leader of Hope, jumping over a railing, the desperation, because you so want to go to Mr. Panday funeral, or let can't be serious. Nah, man, Karen. Shame on you and Timothy. Shame. Come now, man. So, man, look at this. That's ah, boy. Never a dull moment, you know. Why you calling Paris and they call Michaela, call Oma, and tell her I want my invitation. You didn't go to the wake. Bunch of jokers, yes. Let's see this thing here. Shameless.
That minister would not take 1 minute, right? You just take any news why I had to jump over. Because the minister, who was my colleague, chose to ignore my presence. And that's what we tell you. Alright. I still fit enough, right? Right. So you didn't say ignored me, now you're sorry. Thank you very much. And now they have to help the former president of the Senate do the same thing because he got no invitation. Right? So let him continue with the interviews. And look how it makes them look. Take a picture of your jump over. I just remember that you saw me jump over a thing because they would not, that minister would not take 1 minute to give a 10 million to the former president of the Senate. There we go. Just show you what I'm doing.
Right, so now she accosting the media to tell them, make sure and take a picture. You took a picture of me jumping over the railing and Hammersmith jumping over the railing to put that on the front page of the papers. Right? So she come to upstaged. That is the deputy political leader and leader of the well, I posted the video on the debunking page on Facebook, so you could see if you haven't seen it yet. Karen climbing over the people railing. Right? Never a dull moment. Folks, thank you all so much for joining me this morning. I'm sure we will hear more of that. Probably she will do an interview tomorrow morning on Louis Leasing's television station, WESN. They would probably invite her to come and talk about that. So blame the minister. She said Paris ignore her. Amy Brown ignore her. Well, you should, if you know you didn't get an invitation, you should have called Michaela Panday or call Uma and ask them for the invitation. What the government had to do with that? Folks, we will chat on Thursday, God's willing. And my apologies again to my usual Facebook viewers, but it couldn't be held this morning, but it will be sorted out on Thursday, right? So enjoy the rest of your day, maybe a productive one, and let's just take in the shenanigans that will take place over the course of the next couple hours. Yeah, Mr. Panday's funeral. Trinidad and Tobago, never a dull moment. We'll chat Thursday, folks. Good one, Donald. Donald says, I hope she didn't damage anything. Well, she says she's still fit. Me say good morning to my friend Darren Nanton. Thank you so much, sir, for tuning in. While tuning into your brother's coverage of the funeral. Yeah. So to everyone else, who I forgot, have a good day.